Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse episode 280. I was going to say 280. I second guessed myself as to how I was going to phrase that. This is a DC Comics podcast. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up? Hammer Jam.
And a recurring guest who's here occasionally, Connor, is also here.
It is starting to feel that way, I'll be honest.
Connor's like the athlete's foot you can't get rid of. He just shows back up. It's really itchy and irritating. And you spray it and hope it goes away.
Yes.
There are worse ailments you could have gone with there, I suppose.
I was being generous.
Yeah, I'll take athletes.
Be like,
there's also
ginger herpes.
There's like a vague
that was where I thought you were going to go with it. I'll be honest.
There's like a vague implication as well that you're implying that Connor's athletic in some way, which you know,
I can be athletic.
You can be athletic.
Ish. He did run for a little bit.
I used to do a lot of running in school.
No, but no, you and Paige.
Yeah,
we're doing it. It inspired me, and then I realized running sucks, so I stopped and went back to lifting weights.
Oh well. This is a DC Comics show. We get together, we've read a bunch of books, and we talk about them. So I'm going to tell you what's coming up on this week's show, and it is a fairly meaty week. At that, we have, of course, the solicits to get to for February, so we'll be doing that shortly. But we have Nightwing issue 85, which is first on the list. I mean, partly because, you know, Tom Taylor's our patron saint, and he deserves that top spot, but mainly because it's set before Batman 117, which is next on the list. Matt read Batman Secret Files The Gardener issue 1, Superman Son of Kal-El issue 5, Matt is alone on Green Lantern issue 8. I almost read it and then just didn't want to. So
it's starting to the point where I understand it. This might ultimately read better in trade, but I'll talk about that when we get there.
Sure. We have Robin's issue 1, start of a new miniseries. We got Supergirl Wound of Tomorrow issue 5. I never actually asked Matt if he read this, so this will be a nice moment to catch on tape. Matt, did you read Justice League this week?
I did not.
Oh, look at that. There you go. That's 10 minutes safe.
I have it, but with everything
more important things.
I read this week.
I saw the solicit of it, which obviously we'll get to in a few minutes, and I was like, God damn it, is Bendis really going to start ruining those characters as well?
Oh, I've not looked at the solicit. I cannot wait to get to that now.
Yep.
I'm going to be excited to read what's been ruined for Connor.
I mean, it's not going to be ruined because I'm not going to read it, but
you'll know. You'll feel it in the pit of your stomach.
I'll know, and it means that no one else is using those characters because Bendis is. Ugh.
I don't even know this.
Then we got Refrigerator Full of Heads issue 2, Nice House in the Lake issue 6, and Connor's tackling a Patreon book with Harley Quinn issue 8. So that's what's coming up on today's show book-wise, but we do have February solicits. But have no fear, because there's always time for the ComiXology Top 10.
Do you know what really annoyed me this week?
Pete.
Well, I mean that's every week, so I thought I'd be more specific than that.
Sure. What's going on?
The ComiXology account on Twitter has started tweeting out an official time with their top 10.
I've not seen this.
It was like based on, it just links you to the same page you use the US version, but like it just links you to that page, but it's like this is this week's results.
So it's more of a thing now. It's like they're
seem to be.
They're playing into it, so it's not going away.
I mean, it's going away at the start of next year.
I should have looked into this more, but I saw that they've delayed their plans till next year because there's been a lot of negative feedback.
It was supposed to be this fall, but it's coming to.
So we'll see. Maybe they'll rejig it a little bit, and we'll make it a different version of what they had planned. But
yeah, they posted their list at, for me, 11 a.m. on the 19th. So that's Friday morning. So that's when it's official.
Yes. Well, I can't turn back time, but I can tell you what they are right now. So we're at usual Saturday recording time, and it is a DC book at number 1. So take a guess if you care to.
I'll let Connor have it since he's a guest.
I don't think I need to guess. I suspect it might be Batman.
How did you know? Batman issue 117 is number 1. What pleases me though is that DC actually take the top 3 spots. Number 2 is Nightwing issue 86. I am super pleased that's doing well. And number 3 is Superman Son of Kal-El. So 2 Tom Taylor books are number 2 and 3.
That's good.
Very pleased by that.
I think Tom Taylor has another book somewhere in this list as well. If it's assuming it's similar to the one I saw earlier in the week.
I can't think of what. Is it
It's a Marvel book.
It's a Marvel book. Okay, well that's why I don't know. That's fine then.
Yeah.
So yeah, after last week's brutal Marvel domination of the top 10, it's nice to see a top 3 be taken by DC this week. Number 4 is Sword issue 10. Number 5 is this is one of these things Marvel do sometimes with like they've started doing this thing where it's Amazing Spider-Man issue 78 dot and then like the title of the event that's on, because it's like a tie-in, so it's like an extra issue, but it's like 78 point something. Yeah,
that's interesting. This is where we've differed from the official US list from yesterday, because they have a thumbnail on their post.
Oh, so you can see it.
So I can see the top 5.
Oh, you can see the top 5. You can't see all 10, but you can see the top 5.
No, I can see the top 5. And 5, when they posted this, was X-Force.
X-Force is number 6, issue 25.
So this is either it's sold better in the UK than the US, or it's gone up more sales overnight.
Yes. I don't think we have to point out these differences every week.
No. It was just this one because this was new, and they've started doing it.
Nothing about this. I just went to see who was writing this and what the .bay is, and it's for Beyond. But it's story by Patrick Gleason and Zeb Wells and Kelly Thompson. So those are all names I recognize. But as I'm scrolling down to try to figure out what it's about, one of the top comments is, "Not this decimal lettering again. It was bad enough when they did it last time. Just an excuse to introduce blah blah blah." And that was back in September. So somebody was very, very irritated when the solicits came out that they were doing this.
Understandable.
Yeah, it's the second worst thing they've done. The worst thing they've done is when they did a 16-issue mini for Avengers, but put it in as the legacy numbering, so that there was like you had to, if you wanted all the numbers, if you were someone who cared about having all the numbers, you had to buy the 16-issue miniseries to fill it in.
These decimal point issues also count towards the legacy numbering.
Oh, they may. That's nasty.
No.
That's
I'd be surprised if they didn't.
By the way, do we know who's writing Sword?
No.
It is Al Ewing.
Okay.
So this is making sense why it's near the top every time it comes up. So.
I'll admit Kelly Thompson's one of the names that I'm misreading because I've not touched the Marvel book in ages. So maybe I'll be tempted soon.
I've picked up her Sabrina the Teenage Witch series, so I'm going to be trying to read that on vacation, see how that goes, because she might be showing up on Riverdale next year. So
is it the one?
I don't think it's a might. I think it's a she is.
Is it?
Yeah, I know.
But is it her from Chilling Tales, or is it a new Sabrina? Oh, it's her.
Nope, it's her. They brought her in. There's a picture of her with Madeline Pesh. Cheryl's got a cult now, and Sabrina's coming over. It's like, how can we just write something for me? Like, But yeah, very stupidly excited over that dumb show. I hate how much I like it.
I know that feeling. It's terrible.
It is.
I will not give in. I will not.
Don't.
I will not watch it just to find out how crazy it is.
Yeah, you're gonna get to the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, and it's gonna make you so mad. Because it's you. Because you don't like that kind of stuff, and it's so silly.
Yeah.
I don't dislike D&D though.
No, but do you want to watch characters playing D&D?
Depends how it's shot. The Community episode where they played D&D was fantastic.
Yeah, but
they do have a Breakfast Club episode as well.
Yes.
Like the in the middle of that stuff.
Yeah. And you got the character.
I take your sword and I wipe my ass with it. That's Community for anyone who's not seen it.
You also got the kids playing their parents in the flashbacks. It's amazing. I was watching it going, Pete would hate this.
That was one of those episodes where, because it's like in the middle of whatever season
3 or 4.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, they know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they're doing at this. Like, because season 1 is just not good. Like, I'd say you kind of just have to sit through it.
Yeah.
Season 2, they go over the top with the lighting, and they're like, be a goofy show.
Well, I gave up.
Fights a bear.
I gave up with the episode like 2 or 3 of season 2 when Archie formed a shirtless squad of footballers to track down a killer.
Black Circle, it was.
The Red Circle to fight the Black Hood.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think this show's getting weird. I might opt out now.
Oh,
You
it
didn't
got
even
weirder.
get to when Archie shirtlessly fights a bear and survives. It's the freaking best, and I hate it.
I don't know if it still feels like ginger propaganda to me, quite frankly.
I mean, between Archie and Cheryl, maybe.
I want to see Connor fight a bear now and see if he survives.
I'll do it.
Connor, what have you had to drink today? Because that's the whiskey talking.
Literally not a drop.
Yeah. Wow. It's just in your blood now.
All right,
Okay.
back to the top 10. Number 7 is Justice League 69, so that's slotting in there.
Nice.
Yes. Are you reacting to the number 69, Matt? Was that what that was?
Not nice enough for him to read it.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I have other things, right? Yeah, no.
Number 8 is Dark Ages. That's the Tom Taylor book, I assume. Sounds familiar. Yep.
Yeah, that's him doing the... It's basically Deceased, but for Marvel.
But with magic.
Yeah.
You know what? I love Tom Taylor. I don't think I need to read that.
I got the first issue and I did not read it, and I didn't even realize 3 was out. So
I'll read it when it goes on Marvel
Same.
Unlimited, because that's how I read all my Marvel stuff now, which is 3 months behind. So if this is out now, I'll probably read it in the next few weeks.
Sure. Dr. Aphra, Star Wars, is number 9, and then number 10 is Moon Knight issue 5. So there's your top 10. Supergirl just misses it by number 11. So
where's Refrigerator Full of Heads popping up?
it's a good question. Nice House in the Lake is just a couple down from Supergirl, so that's nice. Refrigerator Full of Heads is not on the first page, I'm sorry to say, meaning that it's at least after number 24.
Okay.
Is it on the second page? It might not be.
You would assume the first one must have done well enough that they greenlighted the sequel. So
Well, for this one, when I'm looking at it on, because I clicked on this link now that we're finished on the US page to find it.
It's on page 3.
Oh, okay. It's on page 2 of these, but it's behind Robin and Batman from last week.
Yeah. It's on page, and it's quite far down in page 3 as well. Like, it's not selling well.
It's not selling. Yeah.
It's not selling well. It's unfortunately, but
I have a nice trade life though.
yeah,
hopefully they don't end up on a cliffhanger, because I feel like you're not getting that.
That's why I'm asking, because it seems seems like this might be it. Let's not do that thing.
To be fair though, the first one all didn't end open-ended really. It's just, like they've made a sequel to it, but it's not like it was left open with, if that was all it was.
I would assume they will end it properly still, because it's just a mini, right?
Yeah. So there you go. That is the ComiXology top 10 for the week, everyone's favorite segment. But it is that time of the month in which we have solicits for February, in this case, of 2022. And I've not looked at these at all, which is nice, because it's the excitement of just discovering what's happened. I know there was a little bit of news right after we finished recording last week. I'm assuming it's going to pop up on the solicits. If it doesn't, we'll mention it afterwards, but I'm assuming we're going to see it in the solicits. So, yes, Batman 120's first up. Not much to really say. It's got a nice cover. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's just confirming stuff, with the Batman ink stuff, right? Like there was more about that in the week, so I assume this was confirming it. But
Detective Comics 1051, 52, because we're doing this weekly event, of course, with Detective Comics still.
It's interesting. Is Batman monthly again?
I believe so. Once Williamson takes it over, it's going monthly, but Tech is going.
You can tell Connor's missed the last solicits or two.
I have, yeah.
But then Tech's going weekly for 3 months.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
It seems Tamaki is telling the rest of their story. So cool, because it's not even Mora. That's what I said there. But yeah, that's a lot of detective coming up.
Yeah, the story sounds really good though. So I'm kind of on board. I will say these all seem to have Behermo variants, which are
very nice,
very pretty. Hard to be mad at. So this goes up to 1054 in these solicits. I don't know if it is the last one. Okay. Oh wait, no,
that's at the end of Act 2, so it's the end. There's still another month of it. Yeah.
All right, so there's one more month of it. Okay, that's why did they have to phrase it like that? I saw grand finale and went, oh, it's the ending. Oh no, it's not. I The end of Act 2. But
Yeah.
okay. I mean, if they've actually grouped it into like 3 acts of 4 issues, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
That makes sense for each month.
Yeah. I wonder if the artist is grouped that way as well, because Max Raynor seems to be...
He's doing all 4 issues here, right?
So I wonder if each month's got a different artist.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I don't remember Max Raynor being the artist on the first month.
That's kind of neat. I Am Batman issue 6, that's still coming out. And here's the news that I was referring to.
I was going to say on I Am Batman, if you were going to move on to the next thing.
That was,
notable that he is going to be the Batman of New York City.
Oh yeah, I saw this during the week.
Yeah, that's a thing that they're doing now. Is we're doing just full on. All right, we're doing New York and DC, and it's gonna have a Batman. I'm not sure if I like it.
I don't. That's why I love DC, is because I like that they have their own cities, and like the actual cities. That's a kind of a Marvel thing, right? Like that's what always differentiated them.
Yeah, but the actual cities always have still existed in DC, though.
Yeah, but I like the idea that like Metropolis and Gotham are the big cities for the United States in the DC universe. Like New York's there, but it's just, and Boston and all of those. But, I don't know. It's weird. Just having a Batman running around New York proper.
It's going to be weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Wonder Woman's always been tied to Washington, as far as I can remember.
Oh, but that made sense because she was a diplomat.
I was going to say that was one that they kind of didn't really have a choice with Washington because of its, political meanings.
I mean, you could just have a fake capital if you really wanted to.
They could, but there's if you want to portray stuff like, okay, we have the White House, which is the easiest way to convey a certain message to a large international audience.
Yeah.
To be fair, it is called Washington D.C., so there's maybe some some ties there to.
Little known that Detective Comics isn't the origin of DC; it's District of Columbia Comics.
Nice try, Matt. So yes, the news that dropped right after me and Matt finished recording last week is that we're actually getting a new Shazam book, but there's an interesting swerve to what this is. Now, it's a mini-series, it's a 4-issue book with art by Doc Shaner, written by Josie Campbell, and this is Mary Marvel taking the sort of the headlining spot and becoming the new main Shazam, which is kind of neat. And we've been kind of rooting for this. We were really excited by her inclusion in the Deceased mini, with her in that. And
it seems like a long time coming, because since I would say New 52, they haven't really known what to do with Billy. And they did the Shazam family stuff, but it all just kind of waited in water. So shifting Shazam to Mary, I think, is a nice, it's a nice move. She's
a character who's felt like she's been owed a bit more for a while, and it's nice that she's finally getting at least a little bit of a spotlight. Now, admittedly, it's a 4-issue book. It might not set the world on fire. Who knows how much of an impact?
But do you know what is good about it having a 4-issue book? It's all going to be Doc Shaner.
That is true. That is true. I mean,
if it's not, I will be livid, angry at this, because surely it has to be. That's like the big selling point.
And the cover's really nice as well. The one that's here on the solicit looks really good, as you'd expect.
Yes. Well, it's Shaner in that style. It feels very much. I think Shaner did the Shazam Multiversity issue 2, if I remember right. So
I feel obviously Shaner's style, I think, fits a certain era of comics, and the Shazam characters do feel like they belong, maybe tied more to a Silver Age look than a lot of other characters do. So yeah, he's a perfect fit for sure. So
Thunderworld. Yeah. Let me double check, because I don't want to.
Yes, but this is going to be her freshman year of college. So it's the idea that she's the oldest kid. She's actually kind of crossing over into a period of early adulthood. So interesting to see how they tackle that story beats.
Yep, and I was wrong. Thunderworld was Cameron Stewart, but kind of similar style to Shaner. The thick Silver Agey look to it. But yeah, but no, this, her and the rabbit again, because the solicit teases the talking rabbit said to her by her strange brother, Billy. I mean, just from what we saw at the beginning of John's Shazam book that didn't last long, I do like that this is playing in those bounds of the Marvel family, which has been like, again, like I said, away for a long time. So it's bringing up these things, and I'm looking forward to it.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think I'm more excited because I want Mary to get the spotlight, but also just the idea that we're dealing with a character who is the whole concept of Shazam is tied to being kids. The idea that one of them is now growing up and is entering into a point where arguably should they even be changing how they look when they turn into the Shazam version of themselves is, I'm curious to see how they tackle all that. I'll be excited to see it. Next up, we have another new book. Oh, this is very much a follow-up to a couple of minis that are going on right now. We have Aquaman issue 1, and it looks like it's an ongoing from a glance here. This is Chuck Brown and Brandon Thomas co-writing with Sam Basri on art. I feel a little bit bad in this because I like the idea of like this existing, but the books that have been coming out that have been Aquaman related, they weren't bad, but I didn't really feel any desire to read more of them after trying the first issues. So I feel a little bit bad that I'm not interested in this. If
they weren't out on such a busy week, I would still reading them. Like I'd be reading The Becoming still, but with everything else, I had to make sacrifices, and that sucks because I like having an Aqua book in there.
Yeah, well, what I said about The Becoming was that it didn't really feel very special. It felt like just an issue from the middle of like, a run. It could have been like Dad Abnett's like 15th issue. It kind of had that feeling to it, and therefore it just wasn't special. Despite the fact that it was supposed to be this new launching point for
but it does feel kind of like a midpoint because now it's almost meant to be the bridge between what we saw from Aquaman and now this Aquaman. So I fully get that vibe there. Of you saying like it feels like a middle piece. But yeah, if this is out on a what?
Connor's trying to speak and we can't hear him. He's got a very serious point to make, and it's all falling miserably. It's a shame.
You hear me now?
There you go.
Yep.
Piece of shit, Mike. I was just say it's a bit unfortunate in a way that it's spinning out of these two minis because it makes me less interested that they're marketing it that way because I'm like, I'm not really reading those, so I probably won't end up reading this now because they didn't really appeal to me that much. I don't really like Brandon Thomas that much from what I've read. And I'm like, it's a shame to not read the Aquaman.
It's all just a little bit middling because you had that very house style Aquaman look that a lot of some of the older runs did, and after Kelly Sue's run, which had a very nice art style and had really interesting concept, Abnett's run got really interesting. Yeah, as it went on, some of this just kind of feels like, we're back to like, I don't know, just random early Rebirth or mid New 52.
I feel similar to this in the same way I do about the Flash book right now. In that, I don't think it's necessarily a terrible book. I read a few issues, but it's just, it's fine. It's whatever. It's forgettable. It's not going to have any lasting impact. And I feel the same way just looking at this and having seen those minis, and I'm like, sure, they're probably fine, but there's so much else to read that
I do like that it seems free from editorial, and it seems like it's the story that Brandon Thomas wants to tell. Right? It's not like I don't feel like the front office at DC is being like, hey, we need more Jackson in here. I feel like that's just a character that Brandon Thomas wants to write. Which is
fine. When you say it's the story he wants to tell, I'm not sure what the story he wants to tell is, other than bringing Jackson up to being on the level of Aquaman, which is fine.
Right.
No problem with that. I'm not sure what the actual story is.
I appreciate that. And baby Andy's still there. Like it's still continue with the continuity. It's just everything about it just looks like a typical next book. I mean, there's nothing special about it.
It's once we got to Water Gods, I was like, this is exactly where Aquaman should be. Like, it's a weird, fun book, and this seems like Pete was saying, it's more of that mainstream superhero version of Aquaman that's fine, but I don't find it nearly as compelling as, the mythology Abnett was weaving and then the actual real-world mythology Kelly Sue was bringing into it.
It's a lot more generic.
Yeah. It just feels, ultimately, everything we've said, we spent like 5 minutes saying it, but ultimately it just feels a bit generic looking, and that's it. So, Monkey Prince issue 1, we knew this was coming. It was heavily teased, of course. We'll be back in that special, yeah?
My stupid brain, as I was scrolling, I thought it was going to say Monkey Business. And then when it said Monkey Prince, I got sad. So just take that for where my mental state's been this last week.
Can I ask a question? This fellow on the cover next to Monkey Prince, what creature is he supposed to be?
So, did you read this? Do you remember the story?
From the special?
Yeah.
Not really, but I read it, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, he was like his not sidekick, but kind of like an advisor. He's like a long-eared pig.
Yeah, I was gonna say so pig based, and he's riding a Nimbus Cloud from Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Well, it's the ears that are throwing me. Like, if it wasn't for the ears, I'd probably just say pig, humanoid pig.
Yeah.
But the ears are
definitely.
The ears are a bit, you know. I don't know what you call it.
Let me look, because I remember the character.
No, it says it says in the solicit, a man with pig features.
There you go.
There you go.
oh, so many names I could name right now to describe. Oh, who's a man with pig features?
Professor Pig.
That wasn't quite the joke I was going for, but yes, I appreciate it.
That was very kind
yes.
in comparison to whatever Pete was thinking, I'm sure.
Yes.
Gotta keep it wholesome.
Next up, we got Suicide Squad Blaze issue 1. I have no idea what this is. Let's have a look. It's a 3-issue Black Label Prestige Plus mini. With art by Aaron Campbell, written by Simon Spurrier. So it's got a neat cover. I mean, I'll tell
and
it.
that is Aaron Campbell doing that cover, I believe, unless that's the variant, which it could be.
I'll think it is. It's got all the labeling on it, and that tends to mean it's the
main cover.
The main cover.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming as well. But I like that. If that is the interior artist, I am very down because that looks very.
I'll read the
unique for a book.
I'll read the description for this one. The attacks begin without warning, brutal, sudden, and cannibalistic. A metahuman with the power of Superman, but none of his humanity. An unstoppable being ruled only by hunger and instinct, striking at random across the world. To stop this threat, Harley Quinn, Peacemaker, Captain Boomerang, and King Shark have been assigned to Coral, Nursemaid, and necessary execute deadly new recruits, the expendable products of secret government procedure called Blaze. They're ordinary prisoners endowed with incredible power and certain knowledge that it'll burn through them like a wildfire. They have 6 months to live, maximum. If you're staring down life in prison, maybe that's a good deal, especially if you're Michael Van Zandt, desperate to reunite with his mad lover who forsook you after your Bonnie and Clyde crime spree. Okay. This is getting really in-depth as to like the team setup. There's a lot of paragraph. Yeah, there's a lot of paragraph. I'm going to stop it there, though.
That's the only other bit from the next paragraph I do think is interesting. The power is transferable, so when someone dies, everyone else gets stronger.
Okay.
So it'll lead to this, like, maybe like they're, even more intentionally killing each other off, or hey, you go try to deal with that situation. It doesn't matter if you die.
Yeah.
King Shark just eats them all and becomes the ultimate.
Right. The cannibalistic angle as well. Like, okay, yeah, that sounds. I can see that going to come in, especially with King Shark.
That just seemed like a word salad as Pete was reading it.
It did, but I got quite a lot out of it as well.
Yeah, I would say that like I'm intrigued by the art and the idea that they're hunting a monster. I don't, I don't think Simon Spurrier's name gets me revved up.
I've enjoyed absolutely everything I've read from Si Spurrier, so for me it does.
Yeah, so I'm certainly like the art does make it a bit more appealing. So I mean, I'll probably give it a try ultimately. So it's 3 issues, 3 double-sized issues, Prestige Plus, all that kind of thing. Similar to what we've seen with a lot of other Black Label books, many of which we're going through right now. Weird Love Tales issue 1. Is this their Valentine's one shot? It is.
Just the main cover, which is by Paquette. The one that's first up there is the Amanda Connor variant, which is very funny. It's a take on the dating game. But the Paquette main cover has Harley romancing a T-Rex. And I'm mad that this is one of those big, 80 pagers that I'm not going to have time for. Because I definitely want to see Harley try to woo a T-Rex.
Just out of interest, does anyone know, it says in the, where it tells you like 80 pages, it says perfect bound.
So I think that's that thick.
Spain.
Is that like what they do for the
magazine?
The specials, like the
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
1000s and stuff?
I feel like this is just them adding in a thing to describe something they've already been doing with anything that's 100 pages.
Yeah,
It might well be. I've just never noticed it before, but I'm assuming it's just like those like pseudo small paperback book, essentially.
Yes.
I think once you're over a certain page count, you have to do that. Just because.
Yeah, because it doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
They never used to with these 80 pages. They used to still be.
Yeah, paper quality and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the chances of us reading this are pretty slim. Just because...
but Harley and a dinosaur though. Like,
I don't think I've ever read one of the Valentine's ones. I've read like one of the Christmas ones. Like we did that the first year. They did one. The October one usually looks mildly interesting, but it's always in a busy week. So we tend to just do the actual anniversary specials as opposed to these. Just there's a holiday.
Even them, not so much anymore. When they did them every month.
We still did them all.
Did we?
Yeah, I mean, I miss any.
Oh, fair enough.
So that goes into a few trades, which I'll skip over, but trades for recent things that have been coming out and some original graphic novels.
Yeah, the only interesting thing in those trades is they did confirm in the Robin Volume 1 that they're including those backups from before it.
Okay.
It's good to be sure of that.
Yeah. They're actually just calling. Oh wait, no, I'm reading something. Never mind. Ignore the start of that sentence. It was irrelevant. But getting to the rest of the issues, though, we have Action Comics 1040. But that was to say, really. Story continues. Aquaman: The Becoming's issue 6, so that's actually coming out the same month as the Aquaman issue 1, so it's overlapping a little bit, which is probably smart.
I assume this will be a week or two before the Aquaman one.
Yes, and
it won't be overlapping, will it?
Overlapping in the same month. I didn't mean it would come out after it.
I mean, that's kind of the definition of overlapping.
Hey, what's next?
Me muting Connor off this podcast. That's what's next. There we have Aquaman Green Arrow Deep Target issue 5. So that's getting near its end come February. We have Arkham City, The Order of the World, issue 5. That's been a very interesting little book so far, so that's cool. Batgirl's issue 3. The main covers on this Batgirl's book have been really nice so far. I've been finding. The variants a bit more hit and miss, but...
Yeah, but who cares? They're variants.
Yeah, the main covers are nice. Yeah, that really cartoony, anime-looking one.
I kind of really like it.
I hate it.
The Valentine's one.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it with my passion. A fiery passion.
I love
it. Batman versus Bigsby a Wolf in Gotham. You know what I'm trying to say?
Wow, that was a hell of a
issue 6. Issue 6. Batman the Night issue 2. It's the Chip Zdarsky book, which means definitely reading it.
Yeah, I didn't realize this was a thing. Maybe I did, but I'd forgotten by the time I scrolled through these.
Yeah, it's a black label.
It's a pleasant surprise to see again.
Yeah, so it's a prestige sized book. Or at least it's got a backup, I don't know, whatever. But it's Chip Zdarsky, anyway, so exciting. Batman Urban Legends issue 12. That's still trucking on. Notably,
might have to make time for it because it's got a bear on the cover.
It's also got stories by Mark Russell and Ram V in it, so I mean...
And Ram V's doing a White Witch thing, I believe, so it'll be kind of following on from his Catwoman run.
Yeah, although Ghostmaker's
speaking of
evolved.
Ram V, I spoke to him at Thor Bubble last week, and I asked him about DC plans because I was like, well, I've got to ask. I don't know how much we actually know, but season 2 of Swamp Thing isn't going to be a full other 10 issues.
We knew that.
Yeah, we knew that. That's 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got 2 books in the works. One should be announced pretty soon, he said. So I'm assuming it'll be next month's solicits.
I love how Car comes and says, I got a scoop from Ramvi.
No.
Oh, did you know this already? Yes.
No, that one was just I couldn't remember if we knew or not. 2 books from DC in the works. One should be announced very soon, he said, so probably next month because they're not in these solicits. So at least that. The other one he said is significantly bigger as a project. So I'm assuming he's kind of moving up in the world a bit at DC, be taking on some of the higher profile books, which we're all for.
Yeah. I'm all about. that. Also, he recognized you, which is probably worth mentioning.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to brag.
No, but it's fantastic, and it,
Well, I mean, it's not you specifically bragging. Like, if he recognized you, he'd likely recognize either of us too.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, the fact that he recognized you is,
Just in case anyone thought he recognized Connor from something else, he recognized Connor because of this show.
Yes, that is true.
It's not like Connor's got like a marketing campaign where he's like advertising like bubblegum or something, right?
I told him. He tells him, you got a face like one of those kids on the milk carton.
Hey, you guys don't know what I get into in my free time. Maybe I run a very successful marketing company.
I mean,
why are you still here? And why don't you put more money into the podcast?
Yeah, get him out of light. Look at him. Look at how dull he looks right now. He might need to be light.
Hey,
I think it's just because I'm very bright with the white background from SOLICITS there that makes it look worse.
That could be. I also don't have my window open because now the time shift and it's a lot brighter. So, all right, let's get through these. I got a pack still.
You got a pack. Are you going somewhere? I forget.
Yeah, all right. I'm going out of town.
That's right. Batman Catwoman issue 10 is coming out. I feel like this book is like been way longer than 12 months. Like I feel like it should have.
The book that never dies.
It did take a few months off, right?
I mean, it did, but it's like still, I feel like it should be like finishing next month. It feels like it's always ending.
You're still 3 months away from issue 10.
Black Manta issue 6, so that's also wrapping up in February. Blue and Gold issue 7 is coming out. That's the penultimate issue of that. Catwoman issue 40. Obviously, we've not tried the Tini Howard run yet, but that's coming up very, very soon. So we'll see. Dark Knights of Steel issue 4 is out in February.
Yep. Art by Bengal in this one, not Putri, which is
it's a flashback issue, so to speak. It's in the earlier years, it says. So
which while different than Putri's art, I'm still a fan of Bengal, so it's fine.
Yep, same. And also because it's a actual narrative reason for it, it won't just feel weird.
Right.
Sure. Then we got DC Horror Presents Soul Plumber issue 5. We got DC versus Vampires issue 5 as well. We got Deathstroke Inc. issue 6. That's a hell of a cover on that one.
Yes, that is.
King Deathstroke is what we're doing, apparently.
If I ever had a van, I would paint this on the side of it.
That's it. Yeah, for anyone who's not looking at this, just to describe it, it's a long-haired and bearded Deathstroke with a sword who's sitting on a throne of skulls.
It's metal as shit.
Yeah. Then we got Future State Gotham issue 10, so that's still trucking along. Yeah. Green Lantern issue 11 is out.
I hope they're fighting a werewolf based off that cover, please.
It's not a werewolf. I'm just gonna.
Dang.
I'm just gonna guess.
Dang.
There's definitely no mention of a werewolf in the description. I just skimmed it.
Doesn't mean there's not.
It's a big reveal. They're saving it.
Oh, and look at the variant. Nah, don't be werewolf. Oh, that's a nice variant though with Kelly and the big robot construct.
It is quite nice.
How do we know she's not fighting a werewolf with the robot construct? You don't.
She could be. Yes, this is true.
Space werewolf.
Yes, Harley Quinn issue 12 is out. Connor can look forward to that. Assuming David keeps making him read it. Harley Quinn, the animated series, the Eat Bang Kill Tour issue 6. Yeah, I really wish they'd have an abbreviated name for that thing. So that's coming out. Human Target issue 5.
Cover.
Car, did you read issue 1 of the Human Target?
Not yet. I spent the week catching up on all my DC books with the exception of Strange Adventures issue 12 and Human Target issue 1. They're the only two I haven't got to yet because I was really tired and I was like, I want to save them for.
Yeah, I was just curious what you thought of it because me and Matt were both into it. Just in case.
Yeah, I didn't want to start it until I'd finished Strange Adventures, and then I literally caught up on everything. I read, I think, about 4 weeks of DC comics that I had to do. So read a lot this week.
This Smallwood cover looks like a pulp book. Just down to the lettering, and I'm so here for that.
I love both covers.
Yeah, the variant is actually really nice.
And the Ben
well.
Oliver one's very nice too, but like this one speaks to me on an emotional level for whatever reason.
Because the other cover is like basically a bunch of like superhero related items like flying at our main dude.
Yep.
I've forgotten his name again.
Christopher Chance.
There you go.
It's literally the first words of the solicit.
I didn't look at it yet. All right, what do you want from it? He's human target.
It's repeated. That's his Nick Miller style. That he's never learned to read. He just memorized words.
Oh dear. Now, human target. Legitimately, when I was reading issue 1, I was like, wait, I actually don't know what this guy's name is. I have no idea what his real name is.
I like how it's told us in every single solicit as well. Like just for that person that is you that doesn't know. It's like, look, we're going to remind you every time.
I'll eventually stick. I'm sure by the end of issue 12, I'll learn his name. But
I mean, by the end of issue 12 of Strange Adventures, you were still calling him Doctor Strange at points. So
that was a slip, though. That wasn't like me not knowing. That was just a slip. There's a difference. Next up is Naomi issue 73. I mean, Justice League issue 73. That was from Matt. I hope you enjoyed it.
It does have a Naomi cover.
Yeah, it's just Naomi on a white background. Yeah. Justice League Incarnate issue 4 is coming. Very curious to see what this is going to be like. The follow up to.
I think it's next week. It starts, right?
Something like that.
The week after. Yeah.
You got Justice League versus the Legion of Superheroes issue 2. I know Matt's going to be reading this.
Yeah, they're gonna make me read it. However, the variant with Hawk Girl and Dawn Star, pretty good cover.
It's nice. It's well drawn. Yes, the art's nice. It's Travis Moore, so
yeah,
it's good. Nightwing issue 89. This is a Superman Nightwing team up issue. Apparently, it's got a really nice cover.
Yeah, it's.
I hope
it's the first of a 2-part crossover.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, and I hope the covers match because it seems like it does.
Oh, it definitely does. Although
I honestly, that variant of Nightwing eating pizza on top of the girder, really nice.
Yeah,
that is good.
Really nice. I do like the one with Batman and Superman now, and it's just John Superman for the record.
On the Superman Son of Kal-El issue 9, which will be in March's solicits, which is obviously part 2 of this. When they did the press release of this, they said it's the same creative team that's doing that. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that means Bruno Redondo on art as well for that issue.
Oh, interesting.
Which is kind of cool. You don't usually see that across different books that have a 2-parter. No. You usually have maybe the same writer, but not usually the same artist. So that'll be kind of cool.
Yeah, but obviously this is happening presumably because Tom Taylor's already writing both books anyway, so he's engineered a little crossover for himself.
I would assume so, yeah.
But we see that done every so often. Next up, Nubia and the Amazons issue 5 is coming out. That's the penultimate issue. Then we have One Star Squadron issue 3. I forgot this existed again. This is the Mark Russell book.
But every time I see it, I'm like, oh yes, I'm really excited for this.
Mark Russell, Steve Lieber, match made in heaven.
Yeah, and then we got Pennyworth issue 7, which I have no interest in, but I will admit that cover's kind of alright.
It's had great covers throughout. Like it's had like those Thorne covers. Every single one of them has been great.
Yeah, we got Refrigerator Full of Heads issue 4. We got Robin issue 11. So
that's a fun cover.
It's a selfie on a phone. Yeah,
remind you that all these characters aren't dead. Back to good times before the tournament.
We got
really nice variants as well.
Robin's issue 4 coming out in February. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You 114, Suicide Squad issue 12, Suicide Squad King Shark issue 6. You can really tell that Suicide Squad's become one of those things where there's 3 or 4 books at a time with Suicide Squad branded on it.
It must sell though. Like there's no.
You assume so.
Because obviously you think, okay, this is because obviously they've got the Suicide Squad movies. They've got a game coming out. It's in the zeitgeist.
Joe's funny though is I was listening to a podcast and it was a gaming podcast, so we're talking primarily about the game. It was right after Fandom hit, and the conversation from people who weren't really following comics, right? It was just, and that's why it was kind of interesting to hear what they're saying about it. Is they felt like Suicide Squad is a thing between the new movie and the game coming next year. It felt like Warner Brothers are desperate to make it this big thing, but they don't really feel like it's actually a bigger deal compared to like the actual main DC things. It's like they're really trying to make Suicide Squad this popular brand that people really care about, but they didn't really feel like it actually was that.
I think it's very clear they want it to be their equivalent to Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
In terms of it's this kind of quirky offbeat team, that they have a little bit more flexibility in that they can kind of change the lineup and do kind of
there's that.
If things don't work, they can change it around a lot easier.
And it's got the Harley factor too. right?
Yep.
Like throw her in there. So
yeah. So I just I think it's funny. Like I do kind of see them like trying to like make sure almost feel like a bigger thing than it actually is.
Yeah.
Which is true, but even so, I'm saying when it comes to the comics specifically, because obviously it's a much smaller market than the games or the movies, they must be selling reasonably well. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep making them like this.
True. I do wonder though. To Matt's point, is that I do wonder how much of that is just because Harley Quinn's on most of them versus Suicide Squad as a brand itself.
I mean, she's
not on the current team.
That's true.
Yeah.
What's that, Matt?
Is she on the current lineup?
I don't think she is in the main.
I don't think she is anymore. No.
She's in all the minis though, and like the Black Label.
Yeah, she's in all these like, offshoots and stuff. Yeah.
Real quick though, there's a King Shark variant that I think is from Seeley, and it might be my favorite thing I've seen in a very long time. It's done in the style of awkward family portraits.
Oh, right.
That's amazing.
He's in an ugly sweater. He's with the whoever his love interest is, and it's just this is
it's the shark
amazing.
with the resting the head on the fist.
The thinking pose.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely his expression is the King Shark from the Harley cartoon.
Yeah.
So
still the best King Shark.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Supergirl Wound of Tomorrow issue 8, so that series wraps up in February. Very cool.
Kara's seen some shit.
Looks like she's been through hell. No denying that. Then Superman Son of Kal-El issue 8, and look at that, we got an Aquaman appearance here. Yeah. Very cool. So, and then we got Swamp Thing Green Hell issue 2. This is the Jeff Lemire, Doug Mankey Black Label prestige book. Yes. I mean, it's Lemire, Swamp Thing, so I'm reading it.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, just, it's happening.
Oh, no.
Wow, what we got? What's up,
I just got to the next book, and, this would, yeah.
Task Force Z issue 5.
Yep.
We got some Two-Face action going on in this one, apparently. Yeah. Oh, that variant, no, Matt. Oh.
Let me see. Yeah, look at that.
Oh.
So
Good Lord.
that's a Matina if I ever saw one.
That
Is that Bloom? Is that
that's
Bloom?
Mr. Bloom. That is the full force of Mr. Bloom.
That's one of those where you don't even have to check whose variants that is. You see, they go, oh, that's a Matina.
Yeah, it's just...
Hey, Rosenberg throwing Two-Face in on here on the zombie team. The book that I didn't even want to read, and it ended up being vaguely good.
This was I sent to Pete the other day, and I did post on Twitter for anyone who does follow me there. But for the rest of the listeners, I've been catching up on my books. This was the biggest surprise for me out of everything I read from the last month or so of comics, because I hated it. I couldn't finish it. I literally couldn't finish the issue. I thought it was horrible. So overwritten. I got about halfway through. I was like, I'm putting this down. I'm not getting any more.
But
I'm surprised because I thought I would enjoy it.
Matt, last night he said that Scott Pilgrim was better than Back to the Future, so don't listen to him.
It is.
No, it's not.
I want to choke you right now, and I like Scott Pilgrim. Don't get me wrong, it's my favorite. It's my favorite Edgar Wright movie. But how dare you, sir?
It's so much better.
It's not. Hipster trash. Teen
It's
Titans.
not hipster trash, but it's not better than Back to the Future.
That's way better.
Teen Titans Academy issue 12 is out in February. Then we got the Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries issue 11. The Flash 779.
Snap.
Wally's whole family in on the business here, which is always nice to see. The Joker issue 12 is out in February, so that's cool. 14 is the last one, or at least it's the last one in Tynion's story.
Right.
Yeah. So that's cool. So that's getting near the end of that story. Joker Presents a Puzzle Box issue 7 is out in February. Titans United issue 6 is out. With Starfire and not Starfire.
Blackfire, I'm assuming.
Blackfire, yeah, probably.
Is this her?
Yeah.
So very neat. Wonder Woman 784 is out.
Oh, all the covers. God damn it.
Oh my God, there's Sir Justin.
Yep.
I just got to that part on the Stargirl show, and I had to text Pete.
Oh yeah,
and he wouldn't tell me. And I was like, he has a sword in his closet. How's it not suggested? He wouldn't tell me anything.
Have you not read the comic Stripe? Stripe?
No, I'm working through it right now. Anytime I have a free time,
Okay.
I'm not bogged down by current comics.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's the variant cover for Wonder Woman is the one I like more, I think.
I really, I mean, I love Dodson covers as a rule, so yeah, I'm a big fan of both those covers.
But the variant looks very much like Gal Gadot, which I appreciate.
Sure. I just kind of like the line work and the it's just nice. I don't know. I don't have anything else to add. Wonder Woman Evolution issue 4 is out in February. That's issue 4 of 8. Then we got World of Krypton issue 3 in February. This is Vendetti who's writing this book. I forgot this existed as well, to be honest. This happens all the time with these minis. I always forget they exist until they actually start coming out, and I've at least read one issue or two.
I forgot until this week where it was being advertised in the back of the some of my comics was like, oh, December. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's starting soon.
Yeah, and then that's basically you're onto the other collections that are coming.
So. Absolute multiversity though.
Absolute Gotham Central as well.
Oh, it's an Omni. Reprinting the Omnibus.
That's what I meant. Omni, not Absolute. I'm sorry.
That would be a monster of a book, an absolute size.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
also, just worth mentioning, the Hellblazer Volume 26 is actually the final volume of all the original Hellblazer stuff. They got all the way through it. This is, you can get all 26 volumes, and you got the complete, Hellblazer 1 to 300.
Assuming volumes 1 through 25 are all in print.
They are as of right now.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Because they're just regular paperbacks, so they keep them in print pretty easily. So yeah,
very neat. Legion of Superheroes 5 years later, Omnibus Volume 2. If you want to get more of that, I don't know if it's the rest of. I don't know how long that era is, but it's another 1,300 page book. So
yeah, Denny O'Neil Question Omni Volume 1.
That's nice. So that's some interesting stuff they're collecting and reprinting. But there you go. That's the February solicits. I would say it's not like a super exciting solicits, and that we got a couple of interesting minis that have been added to the roster, but no big heavy some big giant new ongoings that are shaking up what DC's doing. It kind of feels like they're quiet for a few months before whatever event they're going to have next year is going to kick in properly. Because I expect there'll be something in the summer. With
the amount that Williamson's writing, I have a feeling he's going to be taking the lead on something between Deathstroke Inc., Justice League Incarnate, and his Batman. I feel like there's something percolating.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And, you don't want any fish in your percolating.
Huh?
There was a weird reference to Twin Peaks that some people might have enjoyed. There's a fish in the percolator.
Sure. I think Connor's no selling it as well. So
he loves it. He loves it. He got it.
That's such an obtuse Twin Peaks reference as well. Like of all the things you could have gone with.
She's dead, wrapped in plastic.
The one. Tommy Wiseau's on Twin Peaks.
Would not have felt out of place, weirdly.
Yeah. Maybe that's where he's from.
It could be. It could be.
His secret origin story.
My extent of Twin Peaks knowledge is when I got really into coffee last year and I was looking at the local stores here. Whole Foods has a Twin Peaks label coffee.
That is the least surprising thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, and it's called Damn Good Coffee.
Naturally.
Yeah. So it's that's where it is. Well, that and the guy that talks backwards in dreams. That's creeps me out, and I don't like it.
I was in his shop last week, and so obviously they start bringing out like the Christmas box sets of like whiskeys and little bits and things that they do little gift sets that you're supposed to get.
Notice he led with whiskey.
No. There's a reason because that's relevant. So there was one that was it's a Peaky Blinders like little whiskey set, and Paige goes, oh, Peaky Blinders, you can get that. I was like, I've never even seen Peaky Blinders. She goes, yeah, you have. I went, no, I haven't. It's like literally the only thing I've seen is the meme, that one scene that everyone's seen. But And she goes, yeah. I thought, how much? She goes, well, what's that show then? I'm like, you've got to give me more than that. She goes, that old show with the detective. I'm like, what? The detective, he drinks coffee. Like, oh.
Well, she was confusing Peaky with Peaks. That's where this came from.
Yes, that was where the link was. Like, what?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Tommy Wiseau, because if you've not been watching Chucky, I would recommend Chucky if you're a fan of the movies.
This is a weird tangent now.
Well, no, this is funny, because Fiona Dourif, Brad Dourif's daughter, who was a character in the last two movies. Now, she... Mild spoilers for the last movie, but I mean, at this point, it's in the show, so it's kind of like, it's just concurrent. She got possessed by Chucky. And we got this wonderful performance of her doing an impression of her father, and she's really good at it. And when they went to do some flashbacks to the 80s, when he was still a human in the show, they had her play her father, and like, it's actually quite good in the sense that I couldn't tell that it wasn't a guy. Like, she blended in. Wow. It was like the voice is distracting because they dub in like Brad Dourif's like Chucky voice to like properly make it work. But the reason why I'm tying it all to this is because he's got long dark hair, he's wearing sunglasses, he looks like Tommy Wiseau, and it just made me want Tommy Wiseau in the show. The show's pretty good though, to be fair. And just to wrap this up,
I did not know that Chucky could possess humans, not dolls. So that's a swerve.
Well, that's what he was always trying to do, and he had to go into the doll because he was dying.
I haven't seen them in years, so I'd have to go back and I did watch the Mark Hamill remake. That was not very good. So
that wasn't that bad, but yeah, it was
no, but it's not. It didn't stick with me. Like, it's sort of like I asked Ash, I go, did we watch that one? I think we did. So
I'd recommend the original series of movies, and then if you're into them enough, check out a TV show. But I saw someone randomly on a message board this week, presumably they just watched The Room, just asked the question. They asked the question, well, did Tommy Wiseau hit her? And the first response is, he did not.
I think that's the only response, surely.
One of the best things that come out of what was the movie about the making of the movie?
Disaster Artist.
Disaster Artist was the Borat level of Tommy Wiseau accents for a minute there.
Oh yeah,
it was everywhere, wasn't it?
Or maybe it was just me. And how old are you? I'm Greg's age. Tommy, wherever he's from, he's their national treasure. He could be from Louisiana. I don't know.
No one knows. No one can claim him.
No.
I mean, that movie's not that great, and for the most part, you don't really need to see it. But there's a couple of good little tidbits that I hope are true. Like, for example, when he comes out of the set, they're saying, "I did not hit her. I did not." Yep. He had to ask for what his line was, 50 times before he'd finally get it. But the great thing is that like after like a sequence of seeing him ask it like a bunch of times and getting it wrong, he comes out, he opens it and goes, "I hit her."
Which is could be like in any other movie, I'd say is a comedic flourish.
Yes.
But when it's Tommy Wiseau, I don't know. It could be true.
I know. It might be completely accurate.
The fact that Tim met him at a Comic-Con and he was selling Tommy Wiseau underwear is like the most Tommy Wiseau.
Oh dear. If you're all interested, we don't do commentaries anymore, but me and Tim did do a commentary track for The Room on our Patreon at the $5 tier. If you want to go and hunt that down, if you're a patron, enjoy.
That is fantastic. There was when the Disaster Artist came out, there was a YouTube version with Spanish subtitles. Which, if you've not seen The Room with Spanish subtitles, it's a linguistic experience.
Linguistic?
Yeah. Give me a second. Linguistic experience.
I feel like you're 2 steps away from saying lasagna instead.
Well, there's also a sausage that's called linguica, and that's where my brain went because it's stupid. So, yeah. It's Portuguese sausage. It's very delicious.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I think for one random episode, we should all conspire to just show up wearing tuxedos for no reason. Like, not a special episode, just a random episode. Like,
throw a football around, Pete.
It's episode 319. Why is everyone in a tux, and why occasionally there's a football like just being thrown in and out of frame?
If I had to explain to Ashley that I have to run a tux to record our show, I don't think she'd be happy. But
I'd
have to film her, and it would be worth it. So.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about comics because there's a lot.
Let's talk about comics, indeed. Yes. So Nightwing issue 85. Tom Taylor writing with Robbi Rodriguez on the art. So we're talking about this first because obviously it comes first in the story. As far as it's related to Batman, I did read Batman first initially.
I regretted it though. So if you haven't read these yet, read Nightwing first if you can.
Yeah. Nightwing goes first.
I read The Gardener and then Batman, then Nightwing, which probably should have done the alternate order, but hey.
It is what it is. Obviously, the end of the last issue was the clock tower exploding.
Blowing up. Mm-hmm.
And Nightwing and Babs and Tim are absolutely horrified. They think the Batgirls are dead. So they're so relieved when they hear them over the walkie-talkies that they hug them intently when they see them.
They're like, no, we're just chilling.
So it's like, okay, and this is the thing. So having read Batman, there's, we won't talk about it yet, but they show up, like this team of characters shows up in Batman as if they've just pulled off a plan, and I'm like, oh, I feel like we're going to find out about that.
You know what? We often complain about there being too many editor's notes.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there'd been an editor's note at the start of Batman saying, hey, maybe go read Nightwing first.
This takes place after the events of Nightwing, whatever.
Yeah. Just throw that on the first page, and I could have stopped and gone and read Nightwing. I would have appreciated that.
Yeah. So okay, what do we do then? Right, so the magistrate's base, this floating base they've got in the sky. We have to get up there. Do we hijack some drones? Do we fly up in some ships? They'll shoot us out the sky. And it's like Nightwing gets the idea of like, hey, they've got like jetpacks in their suits, so we can just steal it. Because that's the thing, in the Batman issue, you see them wearing parts of these suits. So there's clearly a story to it. There's like, wait, they've got all these suits on. So so they mug some magistrate soldiers, crack some jokes about that.
Steph saying that we need to incorporate jetpacks into our suits more was such a Tom Taylor moment.
That was a fun line. Honestly, probably one of my favorite moments of like art in the whole issue, because there are occasional moments like the art in the last two issues where the faces can be a bit weird or whatever. Yeah. But the panel when they're tricked into the alleyway, and it's the panel of Babs and Dick are on like the fire escape, but then you've got Cass all in shadows, Batman style, on the wall behind them. I really like that panel.
I really like that panel. I really dislike the bottom panel of that page because I don't think it was very clear that. I mean, you can see the hair, but I don't think it's very clear that that's Babs' outfit. On the left, with the way the colors are done, it just looks like it's almost like cast there twice. Because there's no, the face is completely in shadow, and there's no purple showing out. I believe the inside of Babs' cape is supposed to be yellow. That panel there, none of that came through, and I'm like, I feel like the artist drew cast twice, and then was like, quick, throw on some red hair to fix it.
That's fair. Top half of the page is really good though.
No, it is. It's really good.
And the other reason why it's probably wise to read this first is that this book actually ends with a sort of reveal of what Seer actually looks like. And it's kind of also thrown in Batman as if you're already supposed to know that this is what they look like. So that's kind of the other real reason I think you should definitely try and read Nightwing first if you hadn't. It doesn't match up perfectly with their appearance in Batman, it must be said. Like, because in Batman, they kind of are all together, whereas in this book, it kind of feels like they split up before their plan goes into motion on the ship. Because Steph, Cass, and Tim go off to save all these kids. Like, there's kids of the rich families that have paid for protection.
Real quick, is the girl that says, "Do you know Superman?" Is that meant to be Seer?
Oh, fun. Let me find the page.
Yeah, where is that?
That's on where it's the sirens going off. And
I think it is. I think it is.
I didn't pick that up until I was just skimming through right now because of the green glasses.
Yeah. No, I think it is.
I actually like that even more now that she slipped away under their nose.
Oh yeah, because that's before the reveal of who Seer is.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You see her proper at the end. You know, all evil, grinning and whatnot. I dug the there's a moment where they sort of intimidate, like some of them say, hey, we don't want you to do violence in front of kids, and it's like just Cass just cracks her knuckles behind Nightwing as like Nightwing's like, you know, doing the trash talk effectively.
Yeah, it's great.
I dug that a lot. I think like there's a few writers and artists who are really good at getting Cass, and I think this book has done a good job with it.
Because she communicates through motion, right? And so you kind of want an artist that can do that. And just the whole knuckle crack,
and also just the short responses, because early on when Tim says something to the effect of, "Did we just like lure a bunch of people into an alleyway and mug them?" and Cash just matter of fact goes, "Yes," like without hesitation.
Also, but with the knuckle crack scene, I mean, it's the same pose, but just with the way that it works with the sound effect and even just the subtle motion from Dick. That it just really works with her because I'm so used to her speaking through her body language, and then just the "don't fight, just run." That's menacing. There's only a few characters in DC that tells you that can send a chill down you, and she's one of them.
Yeah, for sure. So the one inconsistency with Batman is that, you know, it's just Babs and Dick that kind of confront Simon Saint, and they've already got the armor off. So there is a slight inconsistency there. It's not a big one. It's kind of like, it almost feels like in Batman it's sort of trying to get across the, like, okay, this is how they get up to the station, and we're establishing the fact that all of these characters are here. But when you actually read what happened in Nightwing and it's in more detail, no, they've actually split up a bit before that, and it's a bit more intricate.
Could have just done with a little bit of editorial oversight, is what we're saying.
Yeah. So they're looking for Seer because they know she's up here, but and even Simon has no idea what they're really talking about, and he tries to be a little dick about it, but they knock him out. Yeah.
Did you get RoboCop vibes from him here?
Oh, you mean like the head of OCP, like?
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Just being a sniveling little rat that can't even actually fire a gun properly without getting his ass kicked. Like, thoroughly enjoyed that vibe for Saint here, because up to this point, like up until everything started going bad, he seemed like this cool, collected type. But I guess that was just a show, and so it's fun to see him unravel. Yeah,
between this and Batman, because Batman opens literally with him freaking out and be like, we have to like arrest someone quickly to make it look strong again. Come on. So yeah, it was definitely a week of Simon Saint looking like the sleazy little dick that he is.
Yeah.
So pointy Bab's face again, much like the end of the last issue. Happens here. Just before Nightwing presses the button, you get that weird side-on shot, and her face looks really pointy.
Yeah.
Not a huge deal, but hey, it is what it is. Of course, I can't gloss over some of the follow-up to the kiss earlier on. Like, I think it's Tim's being weird and saying like, "Oh, do you two want to like do this part of the plan alone?" It's like, why do I do that one? Well, because they kissed. Like, oh, finally! And Steph's like all excited, you know.
Even Cass has a little like dig about it.
Yeah,
it's kind of sweet. It follows up as well in the Batgirl's backup in the Batman book, which we'll get to. But I liked again, so that editorial. Everything feels like it's you know, it's together. It all feels tight and connected. So that's neat. Yeah, it just ends with like who Seer really is, and it's the girl with the green glasses.
To be continued in Batgirl's issue on. Weirdly, they didn't tell us that there was any continuation of this in Batman, which I'd have said there kind of is I think with the backup.
I think the weird thing about it is that it isn't in the sense that the Batgirl's backup just kind of leaves you in the same place as this does, which is Seer's going to be the main villain in Batgirl's, and this is who it is.
Right.
So, you know, like basically they've kind of like double, like, I mean, admittedly, why would you be not reading Batman if you're reading this Nightwing tie-in? I mean, maybe you wouldn't be, I guess, but
I get that there are probably a lot of people who are reading Nightwing because it's a Tom Taylor book, and they're just reading these tie-ins begrudgingly, but they're not reading the main Bat book.
That's possible.
That's very possible.
And I think, you know, in this like 3-part mini, there's not been a lot of Cass and Steph, but there's been a little bit of them. There's been a lot of Babs, so I mean, it's done a kind of a good job saying, hey, you like these 3 characters? There's going to be a book that's about to start.
Yeah.
So a decent job.
Every issue this week had the sneak preview as well, which is not the first time. 4 or 5 pages, whatever it is.
Which I didn't look at because I don't feel the need to. I'm going to read the book anyway.
No, but
I've flicked through it in the sense of as I've gone past the pages, I've seen the art, but I haven't actually read any of it.
It's just funny that when you read Batman and it goes from the
backup to that preview,
to that, it's like seamless because it's the same artist. It's Jorge Corona. And I was like, okay, that's a fun.
And I read Batman first, so it was kind of like a weird thing where I didn't realize it was going to be like actual page. I thought it was just a cover, because sometimes they just put a cover of what's coming up soon. And when it wasn't until I read the next book and I got the same thing, I was like, oh, there's actually like extra pages of like preview stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I did the exact same.
Yeah. So this was a fun end to this little mini tie-in arc. Sets up Batgirls pretty well. Babs and Dick have some nice moments. It's not as good as the ongoing proper, and that was always kind of true, but it's just pretty solid tie-in.
As tie-ins go, it's on the upper end of the scale.
Yeah.
I mean, it still feels part of Fear State, but it still feels like a self-contained Nightwing story.
Honestly,
which is a nice balance.
I would argue that it feels more like a decent setup for Batgirls than it does a tie-in to Fear State. Like, it feels more leaning towards that.
True.
It's quite impressive how it's balanced being a Fear State tie-in, which it clearly is.
Mm-hmm.
It's managed to still continue being a Nightwing book and continue, especially the Nightwing and Babs stuff, and also set up the Batgirls book in pretty well in the space of 2 issues. It's done all of that without feeling overstuffed.
Yeah.
That's quite impressive.
And I'm not saying that everything needs to have multiple lead-ins, but I think having the Batgirls backup, having a little bit in main Fear State, and then a lot in this Nightwing tie-in arc, makes Batgirls inherently feel more important as a book that's launching, because it feels like multiple things of like more than one path has led to it, and because of that, it feels like a slightly bigger deal.
Well, it even started, didn't it? Start in Gotham Underground, and that Batgirl story. That's where we got the first taste of Seer.
Do you mean in Urban Legends?
That's what I meant.
Gotham Underground.
I was like, what the hell is Underground?
No, I'm sorry. Urban Legends. Good Lord, where'd that come from? Is that even a book? Is that
no?
A book?
I mean,
I don't think
all
so.
right, delete that. That's part of my pitch to DC later.
I mean, if you tell me there used to be a book at some point called Gotham Underground, I'll believe you.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds plausible, but
I meant Urban
I don't
Legends,
remember it though. If it was one.
Yeah, it started in Urban Legends, and then it went through the backup, and then through Nightwing, and now into the Batgirls. So yeah, it feels like there's this thread.
The only potential concern it leaves me, and this is a very small quibble, is that it might mean that the first issue feels a little bit recappy to us who've been reading everything.
Possibly.
Because they've got to set this up as this is the issue 1 as the series should run out. I'm hoping that just the banter between the characters will be enough to carry it through that issue anyway.
I think what makes me not that concerned about that is that most of the stuff that's happened in these lead-ins doesn't matter that much. The only thing that's important is the villain. And like, okay, Seer's this hacker who can take down Oracle's network. That's the important part.
I mean, it'll be a case of we'll probably spend a fair bit of the issue setting up who Seer is, what they've done, why they're on the hunt for them, this new base that they've got, those sorts of things. They're going to get set up in that book, and that's fine. It has to be done. It has to be done in that issue 1. You have to cover that for anyone who didn't read any of these other bits. But it has a danger of feeling a bit less exciting for us.
So more on that in a bit, because the backup in Batman's going to tie in heavily to this Batgirls book. But no, fun time. Art is got some good moments. It's also got some wonky moments, but that's been consistent with the last 2 issues. So I assume we're back to the regular artist next issue with Nightwing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I hope so.
So Matt, what are you giving Nightwing issue 85?
I'm gonna give this one a 7.5.
Connor.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the 7.5.
Damn it.
Yeah, I'm going to make it a trio of 7.5.
I hate it when we line up.
Hey, it's pretty damn good, but it's I'm not going to call it great, because it's very very good at what it's doing, but it's not lighting any fires under us. So cool. Batman 117, James Tynion IV writing with Jorge Jimenez on the art. There's also like a half of a name that I didn't edit out properly in my list. I was like, I got confused for a second.
This is also technically the last issue of Tynion's Batman.
Yeah, obviously.
He does have the Fear State Omega issue.
Yeah, he's in a one shot, yeah. But this is the last issue of Batman proper that he's doing. I'm glad there is like the Omega one shot though, because I would feel a bit weird if this was the last we heard from Tynion's Batman.
I'm still a little concerned. That might be put a bit strongly, but in the sense that I feel like it needs an epilogue issue, and maybe that Omega one shot will be, but that feels like by the name, that feels like it's going to be an epilogue to Fear State. I kind of want something that's more an epilogue to Tynion's run as a whole, but and I'm a little disappointed that I don't think we're going to get that unless they kind of throw me a curveball, and that's what that Omega issue is.
I don't know. It's a bit weird because Fear State and the build to Fear State has been like half of his run, maybe a little bit more than half. So really,
we went from that one villain, right? That was like, I forget what he was, but he was like the arch nemesis to Joker War to Fear State.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, I'm feeling like, because there is the annual which finishes off the Ghostmaker backups, if anyone was still reading those.
Yeah.
So no, exactly. But but there's still, you got Punchline, you got Clown Hunter, you've got all the Fear State stuff as well, Ghostmaker. All of that I feel like could have something in an epilogue issue. Whereas I don't feel like we're going to get most of that in this Fear State.
You may not get all of it, but like I'm happy that, because this would feel like a kind of an abrupt ending if he never writes any like more to like finish off his story. Like the end of this issue, it does have a nice like moment. It's a nice touch, and it like if that was the last moment of his Batman run, I'm like, okay, that actually would be kind of a nice sentiment.
It doesn't feel like a run-ending issue, does it? It feels like the end of an arc, but not the end of an arc.
And when you think about that, Connor, like when you brought up the last time you're on, where he talked about in his newsletter or wherever that you read that, like by necessity he had to create all these new characters, and to me that's going to be his legacy on this book, in the scene which these characters stick around. Like I'll talk about it when I get to the Gardener, but when he wrote that book, there's a lot that he's playing with that involves the Green and Ivy, and that character fits right on in with all that.
Even the way, to go back to that, in the way it's linked Harley Quinn, reintegrate Harley back into the Bat family in a way that I think that was in Tynion's run, right?
Yeah,
that this is going to come about, where she kind of came back to Gotham, was like, I'm going to be a hero now.
Took all of Bruce's money away, making him have to rethink how to be Batman. So
it feels like this run will have I don't want to say lasting impact for forever, but for the foreseeable future, at least, this feels like it's got an impact.
We'll see, obviously, for sure, when we read next month's issue. When 118 comes out and we start Williamson's run, we'll know for sure, but it doesn't feel like that's about to just completely scrub away anything that happened in this run.
It feels like it's being handed off to someone in a neat place to continue, rather than just start over.
So, but very good to see. But so Simon Saint's freaking out because Peacemaker 1's going nuts. And it's right actually near the start of the issue where Dick and the Batgirls and Tim come, and this is about talking about the inconsistency. Like they're all together here. The armor's still half on, but we have some fighting pages with Batman on Peacemaker 1, and Miracle Molly is tinkering with the fear bomb, as it were. And Scarecrow gets in her head a little bit, and she says he's not, but at the end of the page she's like, shit, like he's made a kind of a point, is that like she could use this device, like, and ultimately she's not going to use it with the fear side that he was going to do, but she has the opportunity here to do to the entire city what she chose to do to herself, which is erase their memories.
It's kind of always been what her goal was, in a lot of ways, not maybe necessarily do it through force like this, but the idea of everyone in Gotham should.
It was more the idea that it was more the idea to spread the word so that more people would willingly take the choice to do it.
Yeah. So wait, explain how that machine works. Again, it takes because you guys read the Miracle Molly.
It takes away all their like trauma. It takes basically it takes away who they are in terms of all their, not entirely their personality, but it takes away all the negative traits, I guess.
It takes away all the bad experiences, but it leaves skills. You can still speak, you can still like do anything you could before, but it takes away, your relationships, your
it takes away the trauma, right? Like it, and so Scarecrow was going to basically not reverse engineer, but basically hit the reverse button, and it was going to
reverse the polarity.
There you go, and put all the fear in them, bullseye style, right? Right? Am I following?
Yeah. I'm just laughing at reverse the polarity because it's effectively what Scarecrow was going to do, was just pump them full of fear.
Right.
That's Doctor Who 101. If in doubt, reverse the polarity.
Because I just trying to think how that's going to all work on these people when they're not juiced in, right? Like, how is this actually going to work? Because it's not like trauma has actual shrapnel, right? So like this machine goes off. Don't you have to be hooked into it though?
Well, the original machine, but Scarecrow's turned it into like a bomb style thing that'll just spread through the air.
Yeah.
Okay. So is his related to like a toxin? This is what I lost some minutes reading this trying to figure out how
I don't know what the delivery mechanism quite was. I'm not 100% sure, but I assume it was.
I understand as a concept, him making it into a bomb and being like, I'm going to set it off, and it's going to create the fear state that I had envisioned when I was in school, and this is going to lead Gotham into a new age. Just the minutia of, but these are thoughts and memories, and those aren't tangible. So how is it going to work for everybody? That's the one thing that I got hung up on, and then just went, okay, I have to keep reading. I can't think about this too long.
Yeah, I didn't think about this at all for a single second.
I was willing to accept it's a bomb. It's going to affect Gotham.
Yeah,
we've established this.
This is Matt worried about the details of something that's like no one like.
Hey, I'm not the person that went. There's no cross. All right, that's fine.
This is bordering on that level.
I'll be the judge of that. Thank you very much. I think what I think about this issue is that the Ivies merge back together, right? And Ivy makes the choice, I could still crumble this city, but I don't want to do that. I can do something better than that, so I want to do something better than that. And she uses, pheromones from the flowers to calm everyone down. So she actually reduces the fear state, right? She brings them back down to a calm level. And that's part of the the fighting against. And before I move on, yes, there's the big romantic page where she. Do you know what it is? It's basically that scene in Amazing Spider-Man where Spider-Man like pulls in Gwen with his web to kiss her. It's basically that, but with vines. She pulls in Harley, and
Harley, stop talking.
Smacks her with one. Yeah,
it's so good.
So, but I think what I like about this, because there's the fight with Peacekeeper 1, and that's the thing that's just like, so it was an action scene in the comic book, whatever, right?
It looks good though.
It does look good. But it's not the interesting part.
He smashes him with his utility belt. He wraps it around his hand, and it was like, all right, you're just gonna smash the robot warrior. That works, Bruce.
The art is very good. But the book, the point of this issue though is not any of this. The point of this issue is the standoff with Miracle Molly and Batman towards the end, where she has this choice, and Batman has to talk her out of it. And what I liked about this is that this is fundamentally like her saying, okay, we have to take away trauma, and we've seen how it's worked for her and what she wanted to do with others. And there's no better example in the entire DC universe than Batman for the idea of the trauma that he went through being a big factor in who he becomes and why he is who he is. So him having to argue her that she shouldn't do this and that they have to sort of like choose to be better and good with their past intact, I think is a really fascinating character moment for both of them. I mean, I don't know if she knew he was Bruce Wayne before, but the fact that he's willing to just rip off the cowl and just be like, no, look, I went through a lot of shit, okay? Yeah. And I can't promise you that everyone's going to make the right choice, but I have to believe that they can. So the touching ending of her like putting down the trigger and hugging him and saying, I want to believe, is a very sweet moment. I think it brings all the themes of this story together. And in hindsight, it does kind of make some of the Peacekeeper 1 like fighting and stuff feel just a little bit like, we have to have an action part of the plot to keep all the tension up.
You can't just have them having a philosophical discussion about trauma, and if you remove trauma, is that doing just as much is that doing the harm as learning to deal with said trauma?
And the fact that like part of what convinces her is that he says, hey, like tap in, here's the feed of what I'm seeing from the city. And the city's actually getting better because Ivy's like influencing everyone and calming them down. What's really nice about that is that Ivy actually kind of went through what Miracle Molly did, in that her she lost the trauma part, kind of, right? She was split in two, and it was actually her becoming whole again and having all of her experiences back together that inspired this choice to help the city and it was that help in the city that then inspires Miracle Molly to not it all neatly fits together in a way that I think is quite smart.
No, it's real good.
So it really is the peak of Tynion playing with all the threads, right? Like,
from a narrative perspective,
yeah,
it all comes together really neatly.
Yeah, the themes click together wonderfully. They do.
Yeah, I have one tiny art quibble, but because of the thematic,
there was a cross on page 4. Damn
it! It's almost as petty as that. I'm not gonna lie.
Jeez,
but
Connor.
No. The reason I think it matters is because of. So there's a big thing here, with Miracle Molly's eyes, right? One's the cybernetic eye, and you see that a lot. You sees the city through it and everything, but from the moment where she comes around at the end, her eye is that eye is covered up by her hair. You don't see it again. It just becomes it focuses on her real eye, the one that's crying, and there's this quite literal split between her two eyes. And then what annoys me is going back a little bit before he takes off the cowl. In the fight with Peacemaker, the cowl, the white lenses, one of them was smashed, so you could just see one of his eyes. And then as soon as it gets to the scene with Miracle Molly, both the lenses are in place again. And it really annoyed me because I would have loved that. Okay, not only just for the continuity of having one of the eyes on show, just to carry on, but I think it would have really nicely mirrored the real and cybernetic eye of Miracle Molly there, in that final sequence. And it, by the time he takes the cowl off and you've got both eyes are on show, in her covering up that one eye, it would have worked really nicely. And I feel like just a little bit was lost in the art by not having that.
I can offer you 2 explanations for this. One is kind of plausible in a Batman way. The other one is very unplausible, but I'm going to say it for the lols. The plausible one is that the little visors in his eyes are like a likely point of damage, so there's just a built-in backup that'll slot in when need be. That's very Batman.
Sure.
The unplausible one is that for some reason Batman chose in this conversation where he's having this big debate about saving the city and not having their minds be wiped, he chooses to do the Undertaker eye roll for no reason.
Jonathan Crane, you're gonna rest in peace. And then he rolls him back.
Joe, I love as well is that when Miracle Molly does see the city and she hears the news saying that Nakano's been arrested, and it's kind of funny actually that it's actually Nightwing and co who are taking Nakano down. Or not Nakano, sorry, Nakano's on the news talking about saying sorry. I was looking at him when I said that, which is why I said the wrong name. But it's kind of interesting that it's actually Nightwing and co who take him down in terms of actually apprehending him. But I love the 2 pages where it's for the first time since before Joker wore the bat signals in the sky, and I love that page specifically of it's the back of Babsy's head looking up at it.
Yeah, and all the little panels of everyone.
Yeah, they're all kind of landing to look up at it as well. But the full sort of image in the background is just the back of Babsy's head looking up at the signal, and then you see them all standing there. Yeah,
I like how obviously we haven't really had Duke or Kate really in this run, but they're there.
But they're there.
Yeah,
and they assume that's the new Batman there as well.
I assume too. Yeah,
it's before he packs his bags and moves to New York. So.
Which, the timeline is getting very confusing here because that book is definitively set in the future past this.
Don't think about it.
Don't.
Yeah,
I know, but I like that Harley's included on this page as well. As no, she's a member of the Bat family now. At least for the foreseeable future.
If Jason Todd could be let in, we can let in Harley. Although notably, Jason's not on the page.
No, but what was Jason doing there? He has 0. Well, what was Duke doing too? Shoot, and Duke was there.
Duke and Kate might have had something in Urban Legends.
That's true, yeah.
They might have had
Gotham Underground.
Yes, I mean Gotham Underground. Yeah. So sorry, Matt.
That's what I thought.
So I really like that Bat signal page. It's the idea that the city's starting to believe in Batman again. Really nice. But no, like I say, I like that he takes off his cowl and sort of appeals to her as a human who's went through the trauma as opposed to Batman, and that's what kind of finally convinces her. And you could almost.
Go ahead, Pete.
I was gonna say you could almost call it a cheesy ending with the flower in the foreground, but because Harley is sending her vines throughout the city to calm everyone down, there's actually
Harley's doing that.
Oh, sorry, Ivy. There's context. Well, it is Harley in a way. It's kind of like Harley's giving her a flower hard on, so all the flowers are sprouting.
The defensive nonsense he's covered up with.
I was going to interrupt to make a joke that she put the iPod Nano down and then a flower grew, but...
Oh, right, okay.
But then Harley started growing flowers and we got a spread joke, and I'm just not going to go there.
A spread joke?
Yeah. You said the ivy was spreading throughout the... Yeah, never mind. Come on.
That's not how I phrased it, but okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to liking an erection to a flower blossoming.
I knew you were.
Yes, just so we're clear here. Okay.
Instead of just going, yeah, I said the wrong name.
Yeah. I admitted that first, and then I thought for the lols, I'll do a bit of joking afterwards. That's what they're here for.
So now that Tynion's, this is basically his. That's not even as goodbye because we have the Omega. Do you think any of these characters are gonna pop up soon with other? I'm talking about the Tynion.
Yeah, the new ones.
I don't know about Miracle Molly. Maybe. I would say Clown Hunter. Yes.
Uh huh.
All right, Punchline's probably going to show up at some point. Yeah.
Especially now that we've taken Harley as a Bat family member. Punchline has kind of filled that vacant slot. I think she has a good purpose.
Yeah. Right. And earlier in the episode, you were talking about how the whole Suicide Squad is a brand and whatnot, and I feel like in that they've taken strides to disassociate Harley with Joker, right? Because a lot of the media has been about how she's getting from him, and now this is where she is in the comics too. So it all really works. So it's nice to have Punchline there as that clown lady that can do crazy things still, and but yeah, I hope like that Tynion's intent was to seed these characters. Like I don't want to look at it cynically. Like he explained, like he had to come up with things, and do his own things because of editorial. But
even if that is the reason, which it probably is, because as we said, I believe it. I think they've mostly been quite good characters.
Ghostmaker's the one that sticks out. Yeah, that's the only one that sticks out as being kind of. We could have done without him, but
Yeah, but I hope other writers pick these guys up, and because there's so many Bat books, right? Like,
yeah,
I would like to see them kind of continue, and even like, a couple issues featuring the Insanity Collective as a.
I think the fact that we're at a stage now where Professor Pig is a regular recurring villain. Guarantees that at least one or two of these will get picked up.
Yeah, so
I think Punchline, for example, is perfect for an arc on Batgirls. Like once the Seer story's done, like she's a perfect potential villain in that book.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and with the amount of villains that we keep getting turning heroes, right? The Clayface stuff. Like we're gonna need some new ones to restock, and Punchline's perfect for that. She doesn't seem redeeming at all. But yeah, I hope that's his legacy going forward, and I do appreciate his commentary on trauma and all of that type of stuff throughout this, because that seems to be his main key here, that he wanted to look at the trauma that makes Batman and see if it's worth it or not, and clearly that's Bruce decided that it was, and he's able to talk Miracle Molly into not removing it. So
yeah.
That's nice.
Good. It's kind of like it's not quite this, but it's sometimes like me and Connor will talk about it's the Star Trek Picard ending to a story rather than the action ending. Is it just more about the person making the right choice than it is about the punchy bang bang and
and obviously this is a Batman comic. It has to have some of the punchy bang bang.
Yeah. But that's not the ending. That's not the important part.
It's not the point. No, it's just there, to fill out 5 or 6 pages maybe in the whole issue. It's not actually that much.
Yeah. So the backup, the final part of this Batgirl story, which is really just the tease to lead into the new series. That's probably my favorite part of the 3, and I think part of it is because it doesn't really have to deal with tying into things as much. This part, it's just kind of a fun story of Steph and Cass, because they're technically wanted criminals now, although no one knows their real names. So I mean. It's more to the fact that the Seer can hack into any camera and find them, so they have to just hide in this hotel room, and it's just them being miserable and getting cabin fever and watching the news. Their banter's really entertaining. We hear from the reporter what's going on in the city, so it is set after Fear State. We hear Saint's been locked up and things, and like Steph is so determined, and to the point where they even like go against Babsy's wishes and just hang out in the fire escape. But that's enough. Like someone, like one camera or whatever, catches their face, and it's enough for the seer to like show up on their TV. But there's some fun stuff here. It sets up that they're going to have a new location. Babs has bought a loft for them to live in together as roommates. So we're going to get like a sitcom vibe from the new Batgirls book. I'm all for that. There's the thing where she's like, hey, I'll be back like tomorrow and we'll set up the new place. And she's like, wait, why aren't you crashing here with us? And she just sort of casually says, I'm crashing with Dick. It just walks out.
Well, there's that, and they destroyed the room within, what, 3 days?
Yes,
4 days?
4 days, I think, but yeah.
Yeah, these teenage girls just trashing it. And I do love that, because you talk about the roommate vibe, and it's just like, that was already, I think there's like a caption that said it was already trashy, and what they did to it was even worse. Yeah,
there's a running gag in the narration that Steph keeps pointing out that it's rating on the website. It's like a fake website, obviously, but it's like rateatroom.com. Yeah. And it starts off at like 1.75 and it goes down from there.
Yeah, it's at like half a star by the end.
Yeah. So all just good fun. The seer is definitely set up as this villain who is like very formidable because they can find them as long as she gets if they walk in front of technology that's connected to the internet, she'll be able to track them. So it teases that the place they're going to is the place where there's been some murders. So there's also a murderer plot going on as well in the background on the news, which I assume is going to be part of the book as well. So it's like, yeah, that's it almost feels like it's setting up their part of Gotham in the same way that Selina had Alleytown. It feels like this the Hills is going to be like where the Batgirls are hanging out now for the foreseeable future.
Because that graffiti artist turned it into the Hells. Yeah. So, you know.
So
maybe not the best part of Gotham, but hey, she got a cheap loft.
Yeah. And they're right in the middle of all the people who need to help. So, you know, there's a positive to it. So
it sounds like, you know, we've got a good setup for a nice first arc here.
Yeah.
I really like these backups have essentially functioned as a zero issue.
Yeah, they have.
In a lot of ways, you know, if you put the three together and, you know, if you took these three parts and slapped it as one thing and put a zero issue on it, I don't think anyone would have thought twice about it.
I think the only thing that would be weird about it is if you weren't reading Nightwing, I feel like the transition from the last part to this part would probably feel quite weird.
That's probably true.
But I was reading Nightwing, so whatever.
But also, I assume when they get to doing the trade, they're going to have these three parts in it, but they're probably not going to have that Nightwing stuff in there.
That's true. I don't know. See what they do with that. Maybe I don't know. That's an interesting quandary. But I mean, did they throw in that Batwoman story from the Urban Legends issue to like because that was relevant as well?
Yeah,
that's true.
Started.
So, I don't know. We'll see what they do. Maybe they'll just put a couple of recap pages in or something.
Depends how long the first arc is, I suppose. If it's only like 4 issues, then
it'll be perfect to include all that stuff. Yeah. So, yeah. No, I had fun with this. I'm feeling quite positive about this Batgirls book now. After all these like teases and like
you
examples.
Were pretty cautious when it was announced.
Well, because of the creative team, right?
The creative team, I think, and they were selling it as like this, you know, all ages book, right? And I think he was a bit cautious.
Well, which is funny because like it feels more teen focused than all ages, which is actually totally fine. Like the Stephanie Brown Batgirl book that I love by Brian Q. Miller is definitely an appeal to teen story. It's how you tackle it.
Yeah.
And
if you haven't read that issue that crosses over with Damien, where she has to babysit him, it's one of my favorite things ever.
Oh yeah, it's a great issue. So, yeah, I guess we'll rate the book then. Matt, what are you giving Batman?
So I'm going to give the main story an 8.5, and I'm going to give the backup a 7.
Cool, Connor.
I wasn't going to split it, but collectively just an 8.5.
Yeah,
sure.
Which is mainly for the main story. The backup, it's kind of too short to give a proper rating for.
Yeah, well, that's why
I kind of feel that way with backups as well. Although I think I like this one the most out of them. It's still hard to rate a backup on its own because they're so short. I actually think I taught myself up a little bit. Like, I think when I read the issue, I liked it, but I was probably just sitting on an 8. I think talking about it and thinking about how all the themes click together, I like it more
than
I did. So I'll probably say 8.5 as well, but I think it went up once I thought about it more because I think it does actually as a really nice fitting ending to a lot of what the story was doing. So cool. Batman Secret Files, The Gardener, issue 1, James Tynion the Fourth, with Christian Ward on art. Matt had to read this because it was Ivy related, so
yep.
Feel free to tell us all about it.
Yeah, so just like the other Secret Origin issues, it's the origin of the Gardener and how she relates to Ivy and the Green, and we find out that she's not necessarily a bad guy, but she is kind of a mercenary that puts out her it's not even an ability, but her science to the highest bidder. And you find out that her dad was German, her mom was Congolese, and they died in a car accident when she was young, and so she felt like she didn't have any connection to either side of her family. And the people that took her in were actually the gardeners that lived in next door. And so they raised her, and she has this appreciation for plants, and which leads to her into her field where she goes off to school to study, plant science and botany, where she ends up running into Jason Woodrue. And this acts kind of like a backwards origin for all of the people that we know that can, that have plant-based powers, because it involves Woodrue, and he's running a government-led program to find out how they can weaponize plants, which leads them, to the program is Alec Holland and his fiance, Philip Sylvian, who is doing hybrid work, which I'm sure he's a character that I didn't have time to look up. But most importantly, a young Pamela Isley, who is doing research into, plant pheromones and how they're stronger than mammal pheromones, and how that can be used. And she's there's the page where they get introduced. It's just fantastic. But those two hit it off, and they end up in a relationship, and it makes the gardener question what she's going to do, because her science involves giving plant life monstrous features. So she messes with seeds and can basically turn them into these kind of, they're very similar. Remember in Stranger Things, you had the I forget what Dustin named it, but you had the creature that that was running around. He kept it like a pet.
Oh yeah,
like that.
Season 2.
I think it was season 2. It's very much like that, and they end up growing into her too, like plant wolves that she keeps around that guard her. But the way that Pam looks at life and just how she wants the best for everybody, and it makes her start questioning the work that she's doing for this government program. But she also sees that Pam, while in a relationship with Bella, who's her real name, she's also doing stuff with Woodrue to try to get ahead, and it's that damns her into becoming one of Woodrue's experiments that leads her to becoming Poison Ivy. And what's important here is that Tynion really does make the difference, that there is a difference between Pamela Isley and Poison Ivy. Like, when this happened, Pamela Isley kind of went away and Ivy took over, and all of her kind of negative features is what went into Ivy, where she started to, it started just with the pheromone stuff because that's what she was working on, that's what she controlled. But the longer she spent as Poison Ivy, the more her power grew, and she could tap into plants and tap into the green. And, that's where they kind of split off, is that she didn't really agree with that because it kind of lost who that Pamela Isley was. And the gardener brings up her relationship with Ivy, which she started through, the faraway lens. She could see Pamela coming back out, those shades of, Ivy bringing out, or Harley bringing out the best of Ivy. And, she was happy for her up until she ended up, splitting and becoming this Queen Ivy, right? Because the good part of her died, which I'm sure is kind of a reference to the book that we don't talk about, right? Like, that happened. But what the Gardner did was that she had basically put all of Pam's, like, everything that was good about her, the positive aspects, into the seed, and that's the seed that got grown into the Ivy that we found out through, the Ram v Catwoman stuff. And that's the one that they were going to use, the Sane Industries was going to profit off of and whatever. And that's eventually what she ends up remerging in the pages of Batman. Yeah, that's basically it. That it leads there that she's watering that seed, and eventually, Pam will come back to being, that hybrid of Pamela Isley and Poison Ivy. I really enjoyed the issue. Like, it wasn't just because it was an Ivy. It was a nice, trip through, like, how the green, how it's been used through DC in the past, and how maybe, them weaponizing it is it eventually, like, Ivy wasn't a creation of Pamela Isley. It was a creation of how, circumstances led to her, and that ends up being why they can restore her. So the art's fantastic. It's very moody. It's almost watercolory at times. Like, there's a lot of pages that bright greens and, balanced with purples and blues. And of course, red's the reoccurring, the reoccurring color motif. It's Gardner's costume and Pam's hair. So, yeah, just really enjoyed it. So I'm going to give it an 8.
Oh, very nice. Cool.
No? I would, if you're any type of Ivy fan, like Connor, definitely give it a read when you have time, because it is, even with the Swamp Thing, kind of ties there with, they talk about Alec Holland leaving the program because he didn't like what Woodrue was doing.
I do like that Woodrue popped up in that story. I perked up a little bit when you said that.
Yeah, and and just seeing what Ram V's doing with Swamp Thing, and the whole idea of that company perverting the green, and how that's led to this new series and new characters that assume the mantle. Like, you're talking about how things clicked into place with Batman. It's how I feel stuff's going with the green side of DC right now.
That's cool.
To be fair, I did plan on reading it. I just ran out of time. Right? For
Big
context
week.
of how little time I had, while you were just talking about that now, I was reading Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
Oh, there you go.
Did you finish it?
I did, yeah.
Oh, very good. So there you go. Superman, Son of Kal-El, issue 5, Tom Taylor and John Timms. So this is an issue. They kind of been wrote this for a bit because it has the kiss, right? Like, we knew there was a kiss in this. And I was kind of like, and when the issue started, I was like, this doesn't feel like it's building up to a kiss. It feels like it's doing other stuff. But of course, it does get there in the end.
Yeah.
So this is after the trap that was set where the Human Torchlight dude from before exploded in John's face. He's supercharged at the start of this issue. And he does help out this guy and gets him to Wally, who's going to help him.
Bit of a dick move using Wally's name just like that.
Joe, I haven't thought about it, but you're right. Actually, that's kind of weird.
It's fine for Wally to use John's name because John's name is public knowledge.
Yes.
So that was fine. But then he says, he calls it, he says, look after him, Wally. I'm like, John needs to learn some superhero etiquette.
Well, I'm going to chalk this up. I'm going to make an excuse here. Is that this was the aspect of him being all jacked up, right? So, and that since he's so, like, energized, he isn't thinking straight. That normally, under normal circumstances...
This feels like a bit of a stretch, but
it is.
It
definitely is.
It's Superheroes 101 is, you have some respect for everyone else. Use the code names.
Yeah. But John's feeling supercharged, so he's hearing things around the world even clearer. He's seeing things further. He describes like 5 situations going on simultaneously, and he helps this guy first. He gets this guy to Wally first. But then we get like a sequence where he goes through all of these situations that he said he heard or saw, where he's helping with the flood in Luxembourg, saving people from that. Some really nice art there of him flying through. Dealing with some kidnapped victims, in Africa where he's like, taking on the truck with all the kidnappers on it. Then there's a little girl who's lost in the forest, and he helps her. And it's sort of like boom, 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 boom. And it sort of caps off with him like picking up a bridge with all these hospital patients on it that he's transporting to another hospital. And it's a great 2-page layout. It's a really, I think this is one of these really smart things where, because if you think of the shape of a bridge, if you pick up a bridge, it's a very wide image. So it uses the 2-page framing to make it really fit into the page, whilst all the other panels are sort of taking up the empty space in the bottom. So it's really nice.
Done.
But then John starts to look a bit woozy, right? He's got his eyes start to look a bit red.
Struggling with the bridge. Like, I should not be struggling with this.
Yeah, so he puts it down kind of awkwardly. The doctors notice he looks a bit wrong, so he flies off. He gets a message that he needs to go see. Well, actually, I shouldn't gloss over the fact that
he saves someone. He tries to save someone on the way.
He breaks someone's arm, right, by accident. Yeah. He doesn't know his own strength, and it's actually Aerie who shows up and says, "Hey, Jay needs to see you." So yeah, and this is where he ends up crashing on his couch, right, for 9 hours. He needs to rest, and John's like, "Well, I shouldn't be feeling these things. I should be fine." He's like, "You don't know, like, you're the first of your kind. You're half Kryptonian, half human. You don't know how this affects you. Maybe you do actually need to recharge a little bit. Maybe you're just pushing yourself too much." And even as he's falling asleep, he's like, "Oh, but there's people in danger here and there, and I have to go and do other things." But when he wakes up, it's kind of this nice heart-to-heart style moment, and he points out that he's the one person on Earth that he doesn't really have to worry about, because he can phase through things. Nothing can really kill him. We saw him survive that big explosion, of course, at the Kent farm, and we see him walking through the walls here. And this is kind of what that point is what kind of initiates the kiss almost. Like, it's just like, it's almost like John in that moment kind of realizes partly the excitement of that, or the connection. This is kind of what makes him special to him specifically. Is that he never really has to worry about him in that same way. And it's a sweet enough moment to kind of smell at each other. I did like because he gets up and says, "I have to go," and he's like, "Seriously?" And he's like, "It's not you. It's an armed robbery." I was like, "That's a funny line."
He goes, "That's not a sentence I've heard before." I'm like,
yeah, because it's also usually it's not you, it's me, but it's not you, it's armed robbery.
And he's like, yeah, like 6 blocks over. Also, I left a bridge on a road. I need to go sort out.
I left a bridge is a very Tom Taylor line.
Yes.
It's very much like, I need to go see a man about a dog. It's like, I left a bridge on a road.
I have to return some videotapes.
Yeah. I like that John leaves his cape and we get that future state vibe of his suit. And I know we're kind of getting away from the future state aspect.
Yeah, I have seen some speculation that this will be him going without the cape in general now.
Yeah.
And he has the cape on covers coming up, but they could be just misleading. It's covers.
Yeah,
or they could edit them out. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm just saying it does make him look distinct from his dad, which is nice. I like when, I hated when Wally was the Flash and there was only slight changes to the suit and he had to look really close. So I do like here that
just at a
John
glance,
looks,
you'll be able to tell immediately.
Yeah, you can look at John, you're like, I know that's him, but the red shoulders, and the way that the S comes up.
I do quite like the red shoulders.
Yeah, it's a nice, interesting look. And
I think you see the red shoulders more without the cape.
Yeah.
Because before it just blends in with the cape, but now it makes it distinct, and I think it works better.
It's a good issue. It's a very focused issue that deals with this idea that, because at first it kind of felt like a little
burnout.
This is like a weird montage of him doing all these things, but as it gets to kind of the point of it where he starts to feel the burnout and he starts to struggle to hold the bridge, he starts looking sick, he hurts someone by accident, then it kind of becomes clear what this all is. And this whole scene at the end and crashing, all of this is this is where he comes and ends not intentionally expecting comfort. He's kind of called upon there. But it kind of becomes this safe haven where he's allowed to rest and take a break for a moment. So it kind of becomes this safe place for him. Not quite a fortress of solitude, but kind of what I assume the Kent farm is to Clark in some ways, where it's the place where he goes and feels at home.
Right. And so at first I was like, what's Taylor doing with this? Is I get that he's supercharged but it didn't feel like any different than what we've seen. And then just him trying to do too much. I really like that the character beat for him. That like, yeah, I have all this energy. Of course I'm going to go to try to do everything I can. I'm trying to be my dad. And then when he finally, shuts down because it's just too much, and Jay explains to him like, you are the first of your kind. Like, you don't know, you're not your dad. And I kind of like that subtle, and not like it's not like a drag of it. It's just like, you're different from him. You need to be you. You need to rest.
Yeah, in some ways you might be stronger, but there might also be limitations that he never had.
Right.
So
I do like that, Taylor started with that of, yeah, he's doing Superman stuff, and it was just like, yeah, he's doing too much. And yeah, these are your limits. And it kind of plays in with Bendix almost running an experiment, right? So now he knows what John's limits are.
And they have that cute joke at the end was like, hey, when you get back, we'll plot how to take down a evil president or something to that effect, which was a neat line.
Impeachment doesn't work. They tried it twice.
So it's a really strong focused issue, and I think this particular series from Taylor is coming together the more we get into what it's doing. So I think some of them like hit the ground running better with Taylor, where immediately you just get what it is, and it just feels like it's already clicked together. This feels like it started off good, like it was very promising, but it's as it's going, it's clicking more and more, and it's like, okay, I'm kind of seeing what this is becoming and what he's doing with it.
It really does fit in with his Suicide Squad though too, and not just because these characters are trivial, but there is I don't want to say a political bent, but there is an undercurrent that's going through it, right?
There's definitely a political side to this series, yeah.
But it's still very much a superhero story, right? Like there's no political aspect to the flood, right, in Luxembourg outside of if he wants to tie it to, climate disasters and whatnot, or the little girl that's lost in Costa Rica, which those are two of my favorite moments. Like him going and the girl telling him in Spanish that she needs help, and he says, yeah, I can help you. Just it's a very Superman moment that doesn't play into those, but when they do pick up, like the stuff with Bendix and the Airy and Jay and all of that stuff, it all fits in very seamlessly.
Yes.
So
yes, Brian Michael Bendix is the villain of this.
Yes, Brian Michael Bendix. Which
it makes me every time I read it, like, because I forget between issues.
Yeah.
And then I come back to the issue and I see it and I go, oh yeah, that.
To a segment of Superman fans, Bendis could have been seen as Bendix. Trying to destroy Superman.
I've brought this up multiple times with multiple issues at this point. Yes, we know the character came from Wildstorm from a long time ago. It's not a new character. It's not like a dig. But it's still it feels like it could be almost. So yeah, solid stuff. What are you giving it, Matt?
I'm giving this an 8.5.
Car?
I'm going to go with straight 8.
Yeah, straight 8 for me as well. But the series does feel like it is kind of like clicking into place now, which is nice. Yep. So very good. Back to Matt on his own again. Green Lantern, issue 8. Geoffrey Thorne with CrissCross and Marco Santucci on art.
So I will say the CrissCross art really stands out here because I believe that's the first part, which involves John on his journey with that new god. And I am not here for this stuff. This is a little bit too zany and out there for a Green Lantern.
It just takes to explain what because I was planning on reading it and I left it till last. I went to get it. I looked at the preview pages and I'm like, because I didn't, I slogged through the last one quite a bit, even though I liked the Joe and Kelly stuff a bit more. Obviously, I still was such a slog. Like I hated we have to stop, because I thought, we're going to save Kilowog, and it ended up being no, we're going to stop and do all this flashback nonsense.
They do this here with Kilowog. They show up at that planet, and so for like Connor, who wasn't here for the last one,
I'd barely been paying attention to Green Lantern anyway, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I was just using you as a cipher for the audience that might not be in the know. Yes.
Show your face, Connor, and let them speak.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. You directed a conversation at me.
Yes. I can't find this new god's name. It's driving me nuts.
Bendix.
But no, it's not Bendix.
You sure?
So they show up at this planet, and he keeps telling John that he's ascended. And this is part of my problem where I like John Stewart as a Green Lantern because he was one of the most down to earth. He was an architect. He's in the Marine Corps. He's very, no nonsense type. And now we're tying him into New God stuff. And it just, not that it's bad, it's just, it feels off. But they get down to this planet and Kilowog and I forget the rock guy's name. They're helping the locals fight off the bad guys. John shows up with this green light that he has, and he's sanctioning all the people off and helping them. And it's like, well, what do we do now? Those angel guys attack, and the God of Journeys is like, you can't be here. You're not supposed to be here. This is the way things are supposed to play out. The Guardians try to stop you from learning all of this, but now so you're back on the path. And that John kind of calls him out and is like, wait, look, man, I've been a Green Lantern for a long time. You know how many chosen ones we've been through? I am in control of my own fate here. And he tells them that, no, you're actually not. And that, everything happens for a reason. And that he has to see this for the next portion, even though telling him that he wasn't supposed to be there. It's all this convoluted type stuff. But, all these people are being led into this light. They're servants of the light bringer. In that John starts to put it all together because of the light bringer and the light. He flies off, and this new God's like end of the prologue or end prologue. And it's a little bit too self-aware. And John ends up going through this portal where this giant light creature is standing like a kaiju over this alien city, and it looks like someone in Metron's chair, is sitting there watching it all go down. And it's just like I get wanting to tell a sci-fi story with Green Lantern, but man, this is way out there.
I don't think that's the thing though. This isn't a sci-fi story anymore. Once you start talking about gods and stuff, it's like we're not in sci-fi territory. We're in like
well, there's a lot of there's a lot of philosophical stuff going on. That doesn't mean that sci-fi can't be philosophical. Like the best sci-fi can be so philosophical. But man, it seems like it's really trying to ape Kirby, because I've really done a deep dive after seeing the Eternals into Jack Kirby. Because there's a lot of threads that he was jumping back and forth between his time, jumping back from Marvel and DC in the 70s. A lot of this philosophical style things, and it just feels like it's imitating it and not in a good way. Then we get to the back half of the story that involves Joe and the Green Lanterns. And this is the stuff that I'm here for. And it's not just because it's doing like the Green Lantern stuff I like, but it is Joe trying to piece together a mystery of who blew up the power battery and how it relates to the Guardians. And just this story right here made me realize that how much of a crutch the Guardians can be at times. And that most of the time I've enjoyed the Guardians is when they're kind of nameless and faceless and just meant to be authority for the Guardians to stand up to, or the Green Lanterns to kind of stand up to and go, you guys think you know everything, you've been around forever, but like, we're the one in the trenches. You need to listen to us. And they always serve as a great foil there.
Basically, when they're just the government.
I guess, yeah. Like, that's for, But, yeah, and then there's always Ganthet. Like, I love Ganthet just as a character because he is the rogue Guardian, right? Like, he is the one that's out there that is trying to be in the trenches and seeing what the Green Lanterns are doing. He listens to them. But here we get that Joe and the Kaluan, which I can't find her name, they've extracted a video of, that's not exactly a video, but it's from the archives of the Guardians having this meeting in the original Owen language that they're kind of translating, but they're still missing stuff. So they're not getting the full story. And because it's so old, there are pieces that are damaged and missing or might have been erased. But we meet these two Guardians, Koyos and trying to find the second one, but they're a male and female Guardian, and they basically are kind of responsible for all of the chaos that the Guardians have been up to, in that they've been running like secret experiments behind the other Guardians' backs, and they're the ones that are responsible for the gauntlet that Kelly has. And that they're spending a lot of time on. It's Nemosini is the other one, and that's so Koyos is the male Guardian, Nemosini is the female. But yeah, they've been going back and forth running experiments on Earth, and it's just not adding up. And that they ended up at the Sorcerer's homeworld, which is Planet Xerox, which they're the ones that attacked the in the very first issue, that might be responsible for the blowing up of the central power battery. And that these archives are kind of tipping that they're up to some no good, that they might just not be like rogue Guardians in the way like Ganthet was, that he went up out against the rest of them, but like they're probably up to no good, and they might have been making a power grab when they orchestrated the central power battery. So as the Kaluans figuring all this out, Joe leaves because the other Green Lanterns that are now without their rings, that are stuck on Oa, are kind of leading a revolt against the United Planets, and Simon's there trying to calm it down. They don't want to listen. Badge, the little squirrel, lunges at one of the United Planets guys and gets tasered, which leads almost to a riot. And Joe shows up and is able to calm it down, and basically tells them like, hey, we're still working with the United Planets Council, but you guys have every right to still be Green Lanterns. But I need you to start acting like Green Lanterns. So let's start organizing here. Listen to Simon. He speaks for me. Of course, Princess Iolandi doesn't know who Joe is because she's still so new and doesn't really trust her. But Iolandi stands down, and Joe, as she leaves, is like, I know we're all stressed out and this is a lot, but we got to get our shit together, or we're not gonna make it. I'm trying to solve a murder. It cuts back to the Kaluan, and she gets blasted with a green badge of energy, and turns out it's this name is so messed up. Nemosini, the female Guardian, has blasted her because she has found evidence that Nemosini is tapping into Quardian weapon technology, and that's what they were trying to hide. And now it looks like the Kaluan's dead, and she's standing over the body. But then it hints with Ascension to the next one. And like, I am so here for this back half of the story. The John story, man, I have no energy for, and I don't know if this backstory can keep pulling me along. The only reason I read this, I thought Pete would have read it. Or else
Sorry, Matt.
That's okay. I would have maybe read,
didn't you?
Yeah, maybe I would have read Justice League, and we could have had that entertainment this time around, and me being very sad. Instead of just kind of confused and kind of wonder, like, where. Sometimes you want a story to wonder where you're going, right? Where it's leading you. That's how I feel at the back half. The other part is I just feel lost in this, like, why John Stewart is being tied into the New God stuff, I don't get yet. And I don't know if I even care anymore at this point, because it seems so sinister.
Excited for this book?
Yeah?
Yeah, I was into the first few issues.
Yeah. Well, because that was a lot more. That was a lot more of the United Planets and the central battery blowing up, and them, being stranded in space.
There was interesting developments and a lot of potential for the stories they could tell, but like a lot of what they've done with John, like it was actually fine. It was that last issue though, with like, oh, you have to learn about what happened with the Guardians before everything, like this ancient past you didn't know about.
And at this point, I'm so tired of.
They have.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting the point of. I get a little bit tired of the Guardians can't be trusted. It's like, I know we do this every couple Green Lantern cycles, right?
Like every 2 years.
Yeah, like, and it's just, I get it. And I like these two Rogue ones because they're off doing stuff, not with the rest of the Guardians. But like even here, they're hinting that this, the John stuff goes back to Maltus, the original, Guardian forms, before they started the Green Lanterns and they're running the Manhunters. And it's just like, man, I'm kind of tired of that. So I'm going to rate this. I'm going to give this a 7. And it's mostly for that back half. The Santucci stuff, I really, the art is strong. And the CrissCross art is strong as well. But yeah, I mean, it's got strong art though, Connor. Like, I can't, knock it for that. But yeah, I'll give it a 7.
Okay. Robins issue 1, Tim Seeley writing, or Time Seeley writing, as I've written down here. Tim Seeley with Baldimar Rivas on the art. So this is an interesting book. It's obviously all the Robins, including Stephanie Brown.
Mm-hmm. She was Robin.
She was Robin for 70-something days, as is pointed out.
Or maybe 45.
If you take the suspension time, yes. So some details here. I think I kind of liked the vibe of this for the most part, and I'm intrigued by this villain by the end who is claiming to be the first Robin. Although is anyone like feeling something here about like who this is? Like, do you have an idea?
No, but this is more stuff from the past that you didn't know about. I mean, that's how it's being sold, and we all know how we are with Batman stuff like that.
I'm not convinced
whether or not it's real.
Yeah, I'm not convinced it is. I'm partly thinking this is like some demented person who.
It feels like the Robin King from Dark Multiverse.
Yeah, all I know is because obviously, I don't know what happened with the release system of this, where they're putting them up on DC Universe.
Yeah, they come out early on DCU.
Which that was not advertised anywhere that I remember seeing.
It confused us because I think issue 2 came out on DC Universe last week.
It did. So obviously, certain websites are running spoilers for issue 2 already, which I saw before I'd read issue 1.
Oh, that's a shame.
Because it was in the headline.
Can I ask a question? I don't want to be spoiled. Does it get better? Because if it doesn't, I'm gonna stop here.
I haven't read any further. I mean, I could. It's right there, but I haven't.
Yeah, because the part I didn't like about this, because I like obviously some of the banter between the characters and whatnot. I thought that like actually using like the real Robins, like I don't mind them like comic books like sort of like talking about something like so. Like other books might do a similar thing here, where they'll go to like real Robins and they'll talk about, a Robin does this and this and this, and it'll somehow relate to whatever character. So maybe it'll be Dick is going through, and it'll somehow relate to what a real Robin goes through, and they'll do something thematic, right? But this has actually got a character incorporating Robins into their villain plot because they're going after Robins, and that felt a bit on the nose to me in a way that I didn't quite like.
Well, not just that.
But is it because they're going after Robins or because they are Robin?
We are Robin. That was a whole different book. So normally I like Tim Seeley. I've liked more than I haven't from what I've read, and him and King on Grayson I love. I know he has voices for these characters. I don't know what was wrong with this one.
I like the voices for the character. That's the strongest part of the issue for me, is when they're all sat around the table.
But it's the way that it's presented, where Dick's like, okay, I'm gonna go first because I was the first Robin, and it's very awkward, and the dialogue.
Do you know what my biggest weirdest thing was? Why has Dick got a man bun?
Right.
His hair's tied back. It's a little random.
That doesn't bother me as much as
it bothered me. I'm like, where's this come from?
Everybody at the table, he's the first Rob. They all know. Like, that scene around the table, I get what they were going for. Just the way that the exposition was delivered was like me trying to run through tires on a football field.
I didn't read it as exposition, because I think for me, and technically I suppose it is exposition, but it felt like almost like sibling banter. Like, no, I'm the oldest. I get to go first.
I didn't get that vibe though. I got it as the way that it was written was.
Let me ask you this, Matt. Are you the oldest?
I am the oldest.
And you never pulled that?
No. I go, shut up and listen to me. No, I shut up and listen to me. Why? Because I'm older than you. Like that. However,
that's the exact same thing.
That's using it.
No, but not like the way that I feel like Connor's going after that is like, I'm not trying to hold court like Dick is here. You know what I mean? Like,
no, but
he sits somewhere around the table.
That's separate. That's a separate issue, though. So the premise here is that Dick wants them all to have a meeting as the Robins, right?
Yeah.
And then him pulling the "I'm the oldest, so I'll go." Like, those are two separate things.
No. I know. Just it was the presentation that I didn't like. It's not what he said. It's how he said it. It's the dialogue just does not work for me.
Okay, I mean that's like if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. But like the way you're describing the problem is like
no.
It's like a whole different thing entirely. Yeah.
No, it's when I was sitting there reading it and Dick going, I am the oldest, so I'm gonna go first. I don't know. It doesn't, to me, that doesn't feel like something Dick would say. It doesn't feel particularly bantery. It feels just like expositional, as if someone picked up this book, doesn't know he was the first Robin, and now they do. And it's like, Seeley's a better writer than that. At least that's, I feel, because the rest of the book, I think, is fine. That stuff around the table, though, where he's given the broad strokes of each Robin are so clumsy. And it kind of made me not want to check out any more of these, because it was just kind of like, are we gonna have fits and starts like this, or is it gonna be more like the beginning where they're fighting anarchy and quipping back and forth? Like the Tim and Damien stuff worked.
What's funny about that is that I would say I like the idea of them sitting around a table for 6 issues way more than doing generic action scenes.
Me too. And I enjoyed the action. It makes sense. You open your book with an action sequence.
And I like the way it sort of introduced each one, where it kind of like, it teased like, like someone gets pulled out a panel and then it's like Steph's on the next page. She's the one who pulled them out a panel. It sort of does that and introduces them all one by one, which is fun enough. I don't like the art that much, particularly when they're sitting around the table. I think they all look a bit off. I mean, we mentioned the man bun, but I think they all look a bit just kind of ropey.
I think my biggest problem with the art is when they're out of costume, they all kind of look the same.
Except Steph, obviously.
Except Steph, obviously, but they all look really similar.
Yeah.
I think I can tell that's Dick because he's got a man bun, but that's the only reason I can tell it's Dick.
But like Jason needs a little bit more of a, him, Tim, and Damien all have the same haircut.
Yeah. And it's fine when they're in costume because they've all got different outfits. It's sort of recognizable at a glance.
I just want to say, I don't agree that Damien has the same haircut, because Damien's haircut, he's basically got that, like, he looks like a character from like a fighting game whose hair's sticking up. Like, he's got like a very specific thing going.
Dragon Ball hair.
There you go, Dragon Ball hair.
He looks like Kazuya from Tekken.
Yeah. Like, I think my bigger problem with the book, so I've got two problems. One is that the teases of the villain I'm not particularly hot on. And then the second problem I have with the book is that I don't really know the point of what Dick's trying to do here, what's motivated him to do this sort of group therapy, sort of like, we're Robins, let's talk about it. And I'm sure there probably is a reason that the book will eventually reveal, but I felt like it maybe needs something a little bit more as to, like, even if we don't know why he's doing it, I felt like there needed to be more of a clear goal in mind.
I agree with that. I think there should have been some sort of inciting incident. It feels like this should have spun out of a main book where, Batman had done something to piss them all off again,
Because when they tease early on, when he says, "Hey, we're finally doing this thing tomorrow, right?" And then so it implies that he's been wanting to do this for a while, and then they're all around the table. I thought, for a brief moment before he actually started talking, that maybe this is going to be something like they're all going to set up something for Bruce, or not that I was thinking it was something stupid as a surprise birthday party, but the idea being that there'd be a reason that they'd all want to get together as Robins to plan something or something.
It reminds me of, do you know when Snyder did Death of the Family?
Mm-hmm.
And it promised all this massive, all this fallout was going to affect everyone, and then it went straight into 0 years, so we didn't see any of it for like a year, and it just had no impact. This feels like if this was spinning out of that, essentially, like, okay, right, we're all Robins, let's come and let's talk about what this means to us as a family, as Robins. It feels like a result of coming out of one of those style
or like family therapy with absentee dad. It's like, I try to talk to him. Also, he doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to talk to us. We're going to talk to each other. There's
something kind of off about the premise a little bit as well of including Steph, and it's not that I don't think she necessarily shouldn't be included, but the problem is that Steph's tenure as Robin is so short and it's so different to everyone else's that if you're going to include Steph, I would argue that if the whole idea of this is that Batman's taken under his wing, Babs is more valid than she is to be at this meeting.
She was never Robin.
Well, that's the point, though. If it's just about the name, then it has to be like if it's about the trauma of being a Batman sidekick, it can't just be about the name Robin. It has to, like
it has to be about the name Robin because that's what links it to the villain, right? It's very contrived in that sense.
Yeah, it's contrived. Yes, that's the word. It's contrived.
And we all know how I feel about Duke and how he doesn't get used until outsiders. Duke was a Robin too. A brief second, like
I feel like there's no way to justify.
That's the point we are Robin.
There's no way to justify that it's just the Robins, or all of the characters, so all the Batgirls as well. Like it feels like this weird murky thing. Steph in particular, because at least if it's the four boys, it's kind of like okay, they feel like a set. They feel like the brothers. They feel more connected. But to include Steph, it's like, well, Cass and Bab should be here too. Like it should be.
If you take out, I know where to place this. Then, if we're talking about an incident that led, with Bruce disappointing them, this is in my head now. If you take out Steph, remember when Bane hung them all in the Batcave? They were like, how'd they survive? This is them coming to terms with that.
Sure.
So, yeah, oh man. Yeah, it just, I did get some laughs though with like Connor said, with the banter, like with Steph talking, like I was 45 days.
It's contrived once you get past that, but once you get past that setup and the awkwardness, I think it's a relatively fun read.
Yeah.
No, I would concur with that. I actually kind of like the. So like it's like an old villain. So it's basically they find out that all of their original villains have been killed, and then they figure. So this old guy here's like one of their original villains. He seems to have turned into a fairly good guy because he's there to warn them, but he gets sniped through the window. So we have this sort of dark ending where they're all kind of like jumping to the floor and like who is this? And we see like this the first Robin, quote unquote, perched on a rooftop. Like the actual way the action of that scene plays out, I thought was pretty good. And I do like some of the banter, but I think like the setup for this is kind of vague and convoluted. That I don't like. It was kind of lingering the entire time for me. And then like some of the villain, like depending on which way it goes, it might be fine because like if it is just like this is some crazy person connected to the early days of when Robin existed, then cool. If it's maybe from the Dark Multiverse stuff, then that could work. But like. All the stuff with like the first scene where it's like we're in like the UK somewhere and it's the UK because they say dial 999 and someone
that threw me for a moment because I'm so used to reading or hearing 911 even though I think that does technically work here. If you dial it will reroute anyway. But
okay, that's interesting.
I think they implemented that because people when they panic just dial whatever comes to mind, and obviously because
TV and movies
have proliferated that idea so much, even over here people panic and ring 911.
That's pretty funny. Because I actually went back to because it's only the second page that line's there, and I went back to the first page because I thought, wait, did this have a caption saying what it was? And it didn't, but I was like, I guess it's in the UK. But there's a whole thing where it's like the villain puts a grenade in a robin's nest, and okay. So
reasons.
Yeah.
Well, and that ties into if this is the first Robin that was cast aside, this is kind of them picking that first hatchling and destroying the rest of the nest, right? Like I'm not going to let you fall aside like I was.
Why is the first Robin English?
Don't know.
Is this going to be this was a see, you can't even do it was a Robin on one of his travels, like when he was training because he wasn't Batman yet, right? Until he comes back to Gotham.
How many kids does Bruce have that we don't know about though?
It could be a very long list, let's be honest.
And also I also like to think the idea of Robin is tied innately to Dick Grayson, right? And that was like a family thing. So the idea of there being a first Robin that predates him is kind of like
this is especially jarring as you guys spoke about I think last week or the week before, but I just read Robin and Batman.
Yeah.
And that had the identity of Robin.
Yeah, and that's obviously not strictly in continuity, but like I think most of his
that adheres to the idea of Robin, right? Whereas, and then now this kind of feels like throws this in. It's like, this is kind of weird now.
This feels like it's just on concept, feels a little just out of place with anything else we're doing right now.
I'm very hopeful that this is a scenario of they're not actually the first Robin. This is
for sure,
some crazy person who doesn't know what they're doing.
You mean the book that's only being printed because it won an internet contest is a little disjointed?
Do you know what's so funny is that we kind of assumed that when that tournament thing happened, that a lot of these pitches must just have been sitting around, and it does kind of feel like, because this feels like it might have just been sitting around from like 5, maybe even like way more than that. Like it could be 10 years old. This premise, and I do wonder because what's so different from now compared to the New 52 era when it feels like this might have been an idea for like a minute, a standalone mini.
My spinning out of Death of the Family scenario might not have been so wild.
I honestly think it was spinning out of anything, but like it could have been a standalone mini idea back then or whatever. But the reason why I think it sticks out to me that it felt like it comes from that kind of era is that it sticks out now because we don't really need this. Like for the first time, well, it's been a while now, but we've had a good couple of years, but for a long time, we were all gagging for that classic Bat family. We wanted Steph and Tim and Dick and like these characters working together and the Batgirls as well. And we have actually a good thing of it right now where we have a Robin book with Damian. We have Nightwing. We have Batgirls coming out. We have all these characters all sharing a world and they're in the best place they've been in a long, long, long time. So this book right now feels like we don't really need it. Like, we don't have that thirst because we're getting it in the main comics, and it's better in the main comics than this is, quite frankly. So, it's kind of in a weird place where it doesn't feel like it's needed. But, I mean...
It's not bad, though.
It's not bad.
It's convoluted, and it's got this weird baggage to it, but it's still mostly quite enjoyable to read.
Pete,
yeah.
How much did you like Damian calling out Tim for calling himself the Drake?
that's the one thing that tells us it's set. At the very least, they updated some dialogue because they put in a dig about the Drake.
Yeah, I did love
Stephanie
that.
Brown's in it means it has to have been a updated version because obviously that would have happened during the New 52.
Sure.
She wasn't around. But I did like that because apparently Bendis was the only one that thought that was a good idea.
Literally no one else thought that was a good idea.
This is not the first time a comic has made a dig at that name. Like, that's happened a couple of times now from other writers.
So, I think it was Williamson in another book. I think it might have been in Robin when they all showed up in that one issue.
Yeah, it wasn't a super tough read. So as long as the week's not too busy when issue 2 comes out, like I'll probably still give the second issue a go.
I'm giving this one more issue. And then if it's still the dialogue,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if the dialogues tell more of this, then I'm gonna be a little bit,
Yeah, I was expecting to like it more. Like Robin and Batman was a much bigger hit for me last.
Mm-hmm.
That was fantastic, by the way. I know I didn't speak about that. That's not really the tone now, but I love that.
Yeah.
You liking a Jeff Lemire? I would never guessed.
Shocking, isn't it?
All right, let's move on. I just need to rate this, don't we? Rate Rob.
5.5.
Oh, Connor.
A bit more generous than that, but not. I'm not in love with it. It's a 6.5 for me.
Yeah, I agree with the 6.5. Yeah, I think 6.5.
Connor's gonna go 6.
I did think about it. I already had my number in mind, but I did think about saying it just when I said that first bit.
Yeah. All right. So, Supergirl, Women of Tomorrow, issue 5. Tom King writing, Bilquis Evely on the art. This is a story of our main character, Ruthie, I think.
Ruthie.
Yeah, I feel like they don't say her name enough because I've just not learned it. But this is basically the villain, Krell. He uses this magic orb that he is Krem, sorry, that he's got because she explains in the narration that you have to actually have murdered lots of people for the purpose of like getting the power to actually get this magic orb. But this orb transports Supergirl and her to a planet, which I assume is a deep pull from Superman lore.
I believe it is.
Yeah. But
Superman on the line.
So they get to this planet that has a green sun, and it's effectively kryptonite sunlight that is hurting Supergirl. And it's a story of Ruthie having to kind of look after her while she's passed out as they're waiting for sunset, because that's when she'll get her powers back and they can fly off and get out of here. So it's a story of her having to take the sword, fight off some weird alien dinosaur things, and just kind of survive. And that's the issue. But it is kind of an enjoyable issue, and in that
it is. I love the spin of it, like the idea of, oh no, we're gonna wait for the sun to go away, is the complete opposite of almost every other Superman or Supergirl story where the sun is the saving grace, right?
Yeah, and I actually kind of like there's been a few digs in this story from Kara about Clark, and I kind of liked a couple of them in this one, which is one saying, don't tell him that I taught you how to say shit, you get judgy. Yeah. And the other one being is that early on in the story, she says, yeah, Clark was here and he almost died. He said it was closer to death than even Doomsday, but the Justice League came and saved him. And she's like, oh, how long did he survive before that? And she's like, 45 minutes. And it's like, wait, how long do we have till sunset? About 10, 11 hours. And at the end of the issue, when she finally gets her strength back, and she's still kind of weak, but she's enough to save, because Ruthie's about to get eaten by the big monster. And she just sort of like says, 45 minutes. What a bitch. Like, that's what she says. It made me laugh. Bitch. That made me laugh so much.
Yeah.
What's this planet name?
Yeah, yeah, it was funny.
That really got me. So, but a lot of it is the main character narrating and talking about the struggle, and she's like fighting off this sort of smaller dinosaur early on with the sword, and she actually feels quite proud. She's like, I don't mean to brag, but I actually feel kind of chuffed that I was able to fight this thing off. And she talks about almost falling asleep herself, and it's just this constant like, please sun go down, like please get there. I was almost expecting like a sad twist where it was like the pitch black planet, where that would like almost go down, but then the second sun would rise.
The one that got me is if it was a twin sun planet, like it goes down and then just keeps coming right back up.
That's basically what I just said, but yeah, sure.
Well, no, you said a pitch black planet. That's different. Those monsters come out.
I just meant multiple suns. That's all.
Oh, gotcha. I haven't seen pitch black in 20 years, so I didn't know there's multiple suns on that planet.
Yeah, there's 3 suns on that planet.
Oh shoot! There you go.
Yeah, and that's why the eclipse is so rare. But every many years they have the eclipse.
Is that what it is? It's the eclipse that's. Shoot, man. Yeah, it's been forever.
It's been a while since Matt watched.
I don't think most people remember the details of the premise.
Not Pete, though. Pete remembers.
It's an easy premise to remember. There's 3 suns, but every several years there's a total eclipse, and the light's what keeps the monsters kept in the caves because the sunlight hurts them. Simple.
Literally, all people remember is nighttime, dark, monsters.
Yeah. Vin Diesel can see in the dark. They have to let him off, even though he's a dangerous criminal, because he's the only one that can help them. Yeah.
So. Really focused issue, and I think that's been a really good part of this series. Is each issue has felt like really focused in its own story.
I liked that it focuses on
more scattershot for me. Because I think it was last issue anyway. Because that was the one I didn't like as much, where it had like the 3 or 4 different stories in it.
I think that was the last one, because the last one was the one where they find all the bodies and stuff, right?
It might have been the one before.
No, I don't. I think you guys haven't flipped. The blue and the purples were the one before.
Oh, was it? Okay.
And then the last one was the one Connor was talking about with it was like the trials of Kara Zor-El.
Yeah, that was the one I wasn't as keen on. I really appreciated this one being a return to just.
Yeah, I love when they land on the planet and it's just the giant like dinosaur foot is like comes down on top of them and Kara has to hold it up, but then realizes, oh shit, I'm getting weak. We have to go and do something.
Just something I find really interesting about the coloring in this issue, and this is not a complaint. This is so I realize. The sun's green, but the whole most of the book it's still like reds and yellows that we're kind of playing with. That it feels like sure there's the greenish tint to the sky, but most of the color palette is still in those warm colors. And then when it gets to night and they're flying away at the end, that's when everything looks green. Even though it's safe now and the green, the green sun is gone. That's the most green the book looks in the entire issue.
Yeah, I love Supergirl waking up delirious at one point with the pterodactyl-like things and going, what's that? Is that a bird? No, it's a plane, and then she passes back out again.
I do like that this one focused on Ruthie and about her, and how basically it's because of her time with Kara that she's almost able to get the courage to even pick up the sword against that dinosaur to save her because of what Kara's been doing. And I do like that it shows the growth of her as a character.
And it's a big deal that we have a story where she has to save Kara at some point during this journey, and that's what this part is. She has to stay and defend her, and that's like a big step forward, I think, for the character.
Yeah. And then her with the Delirious wanting to go to the water because she's so thirsty, but Ruthie's like, we don't know what's in the water. You're not like, you could die. I was getting vibes from at least the book version of Harry Potter, of book 6, with Dumbledore and getting Delirious, and Harry having to guide him through the thing. And it's just the flip on, this person that you're so used to protecting you now have to protect them. Just beyond the sword, her actually talking to her and trying to reason with her. I really like that. The
moment where she has to stand up to her and be like, no, you said we're not going to the water, so sit back down.
Yeah.
I really, really, that really resonated.
Her confidence and all that is a really strong part of the issue. Yeah. No, it's really solid. It's really solid. And obviously the art's really pretty, as it has been consistently. We're running a little bit short in time, so I'm going to move this one a bit briskly, but I feel like this one's a bit more straightforward, so easy enough to cut this one down a bit. So what are you rating Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow issue 5, Matt?
8.5.
Connor?
Yeah, 8.5 for me as well.
Yeah, 8.5. This is the trinity of 8.5, so what would you want?
There's been a lot of lining up going on this week.
I don't like it. That's been happening the last couple of weeks too. That's
because I wasn't here to ruin it all.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So
we're all learning at the same time that rating things is dumb. I've always known this.
No. That's not what's happening here, Matt. That's what you interpret it as.
Yes.
What's happening is that we're rating things similar because we're recognizing similar quality. It just means we're more in tune than before.
I don't like that. I don't want to be in tune with you two.
Well, tough.
I am counterpoint to you two.
All right.
Not anymore.
Let us move on to Refrigerator Full of Heads, issue 2, Real Yours, with Tom Fowler on the art.
Mm-hmm.
So I dug the first issue, the pulpy, the shark head, all that stuff.
Yeah.
This issue ties it back into the first story a bit more. We meet June again, who's working at a daycare centre, another part of the country. But we basically get that the biker gang in Brody Island and these fake FBI agents who come to speak to her both work for the same big baddie who wants the axe.
Uh-huh.
So they actually end the issue by kidnapping her and saying we're on our way to Brody Island. So that's kind of the bookend with her. It was nice to see her again, though.
Yeah.
It was.
I mean, and considering that she is the one that threw the axe out, right? As she crossed the bridge. So of course she was the last one with it. That's why they would be going after her.
Yeah. But the biker gang stops our main couple from this. Was it Kal and?
Where are their names?
Their name. Yeah, I don't know their names yet. But a lot of it's this big fight scene where the bikers stop them, shoot out their tire, and they're beating the crap out of him a little bit. But then, of course, they find the axe. They know what the axe is, which then ties them into this is for our boss. They're here looking for the axe, and. We're still teasing what the couple are here for. Clearly, there's more to it than just on vacation. But the woman grabs the axe and just starts decapitating them, without giving it much thought either. Which really suggests that they do have some sort of background where they're more capable of and willing to start killing people in moments of danger.
Yeah, and I also like to think that the axe just has that quality because we saw kind of the same with June.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
right. Once the axe starts going through skin, it doesn't stop until the head's gone. And I like that. And the guy that tumbles down when Cal
my favorite part of this is the bald guy biker who gets his head cut off and he tumbles down to the beach and then he tries to move, so he starts rolling his head to get to safety and get away from the seagulls. Is actually that's part, much like the shark in the first issue. This guy trying to move himself and then almost getting hit by the truck on the road as he's rolling his head around is really funny to me. And him bouncing around and all the rest of it.
I'm going F the open road. I'm going cross country. Okay, you figure it out, my guy. There's just a sense of humor to this series that. We talked about how it does feel like an 80s horror franchise, that they're two, the tones are a little bit different from the first one to this one. Because this one feels like it's playing a little bit more with the comedy aspect than the first one did.
For sure.
And I appreciate that. And then also, if I remember right, go ahead.
I was going to say, the other two heads they take back for information. They threaten to throw them into the shark's mouth and then put them in the titular refrigerator.
Yep.
And that's the big thing. And the head that's rolling around is still trying to get to his boss. So that's presumably going to be a plot point that comes up.
Yeah. But so they bring up when they go to put the heads in, like, what about the other Norse artifacts that have gone missing? Like the belt of Jormungandr, which is actually Thor's belt. That's how he's able to lift heavy things. And the sword of Hugin and Munin, which is some more mythology stuff.
And they also mentioned the dagger from like the start of issue
from
1.
The first
from the couple that got murdered,
And these guys, the bikers won't talk because they don't know anything about that. But yeah, no, I like that. But I was going to say, I remember breezing through the backup. I still need to find if it's collected somewhere, that Joe Hill wrote that brought in the origin. It was the werewolf book.
The Sea Dogs.
The Sea Dogs, yeah.
I'm sure it was collected somewhere.
That that ties the axe, as we saw in that. I remember thumbing through that when we were reading all the Hill House books. The origin of this axe, and I'm just wondering if that plays into this. If this is doing its own thing. Because if so, that's pretty cool. It's very Stephen King-esque, pulling pieces from other stories and doing stories around it. I really enjoyed this issue.
I did too, and the art's really pulpy and fun. The head bouncing around and rolling around, being the notable one. But even just like when they're threatening the other heads by like sort of holding it in front of the shark's mouth, and this is like the panels coming from inside the shark's mouth, so you see all the teeth around the edges, but you just see all the lettering that say going chomp 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 chomp. Like it's just really fun, really pleasant. It's a good time. What are you giving it, Matt?
I am giving this an 8.
Yeah, I think I will too. Yeah, there you go. Probably just to annoy Matt because he hates when we line up on
Real
scores.
quick, Matt, good news, bad news. Good news, Sea Dogs was collected. Bad news, it was exclusive as a graphic novel to the Hill House box set.
Well, I'm going to have to check secondhand stores and see if someone brought it in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, thank you, sir.
You want it, you have to get all of them, which I guess is how it worked in singles as well. You have to buy all the singles of everything. So
this had 14 extra pages as well that weren't ever printed in singles. So yeah, even if you bought all the singles and then you wanted the end of the Sea Dog story, have to buy the box set.
That's kind of dirty pool on their part. Like if they're trying to sell box sets, but
sketchy.
Yeah.
Sketchy. All right, but we have a more interesting horror book to discuss here. The Nice House on the Lake, issue 6, James Tynion IV and Alvaro Martinez on the art. And we obviously the end of the last issue was that Reggie was inside the creepy second house, right? The weird building with no entrance. And this issue, it has them come in. Now, not all of them know who he is. Some of them do, some of them don't, depending on, where in their lives they knew.
So it seems like, from what we know from Walter and his group of friends, if we think of them like concentric rings, right? Like this is the first ring. So if Walter's in the middle, this was like the first group of friends, right? It was Reg and Norm and the other guy that we see, the photographer, right?
Yeah.
And then everyone else kind of comes in other concentric rings. And so I like that this is now focusing on that first group, and that's what this issue is.
Yeah, and like
pull things in.
The issue starts with like him sort of enjoying the air and the rain. But it invites them all in, and obviously they're like, okay, you just said that we still have a chance to save the world. Like, explain yourself. And we see, like, inside this place, it kind of looks like the big foyer of like a building, like an office building, like a big foyer. But instead of having like foyer things, it's just a couch and like a bed and like whatever he's had in there. So he's been kind of still just living in here, and we find out that he's like had the transcripts. Like he's not doing them, but he's been reading them. So.
They're printing out on like this old style printer. Yeah,
so it's kind of tying in that mechanic that we've been seeing into the plot a little bit, which is nice. And I got super nostalgia here when we started seeing the chat windows because it looked like Windows XP, and that was like my first computer, Windows XP. So
you didn't have a computer before XP?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
I'm sitting over here on Windows 98, but I'll keep that quiet.
I was on 98.
Yeah, I got a computer when I was 10, and it was Windows XP.
Oh.
Fair enough. I thought by the time you were 10, XP was...
No, sorry, 11. 11, I was 11.
Okay. Either way, let's keep it going.
So a lot of this one is a little bit more flashback heavy. Because it gets into this teenage time in their lives, and it sets up that Reggie, like Walter, revealed that he was attracted to Reggie, and Reggie kind of turned him down. We're still friends, but it was a little bit awkward, and that's kind of what they're talking about a lot in these flashback stories. But what this turns out to be is like Walter did reveal to them who he was to an extent. It didn't explain everything, but he said a lot of it, and we find out that he told them. In fact, he told Reggie multiple times, but every time he told them, he erased his memory.
Yeah, he did the blinky thing from Men in Black.
Yeah.
So we get this sort of backstory where we see their dynamic and their interaction with each other, and this was really strong character work. Where it's like, oh, I kind of want to tell you guys something. Can we hang out this weekend? And they're kind of worried that it's going to be more romantic stuff. Like, is this going to be awkward? Are you trying to like make a move on him again or something? Because Reggie does seem to be quite cool with it and is kind of like letting it go. But we get like the sense of humor and stuff. That the kind of joke is the third guy's not gay, so they're kind of like joking him about him being the pet hetero and things like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good back and forth in the character work. So you really get a sense of who they were at this time, and every so often it comes back to this stuff, and the other characters, like, I don't remember any of this. Like, these conversations are building up to this weekend, and Walter tells them that the world's going to end, right? Not like in the next couple of weeks. It's got a couple of decades, right, which lines up, but this whole thing's an experiment, and it's like he has to get a group of exceptional people who will prove to be a good focus group. And Reggie's theory, based on like what he was told there, is that if they're not being that functional, and they're not, they're kind of like trying to break out and they're fighting and the things aren't going super well, that maybe they've not proven to be an adequate group yet, so therefore the actual world-ending event has not been triggered. Like, they've not done it yet because they've not actually found the right group, potentially.
Yeah.
Right. And also the way that Norm, who's the writer, had described the end of the world, how he thought it was going to end, is what we saw back at the end of the first issue.
Yeah.
With the skin globs, and just, you tell Tynion was having a lot of fun with that character of describing, some super gross body melting stuff. But it's where it was super interesting was that's the version that they saw, but it didn't register with them at the time. At least if it did, we didn't get to get that perspective.
I think they're a bit too caught up in the horror of it.
Yeah, that too. But it was the other artist that picked up on the end of the world scenarios because of all the talks that she had with Walter.
And it's worth mentioning as well as that conversation in this book it's a fairly throwaway, just jokey conversation of, because it turns into, it's all goop, nothing but goop. I'm an expert on goop, but it's just this jokey, stupid, dumb teenage conversation. So you totally buy that he would remember he said this.
No, I know, but I just thought it was interesting too that as they're starting to piece things together, that might be something that pops back up, because the like Reg pointed out, because again, why would Walter keep Reg away? Like, I know that he cares about Reg, right?
Well, I think that's my speculation as to why he kept. I don't think Reggie's supposed to be part of this experiment anymore, but Walter wanted to keep him alive, so he sort of hid him in a separate little compartment.
Yeah, and that's my thing. And now that because they're not functional, and because the photographer went and found the second house while interning, this is what's throwing the wrinkles into everything.
Yeah.
But then at the end of this, they're all memory wiped, and it's back to square one.
Yeah, because Walter shows up and is like,
which. Yeah.
You think this is going to have you think you're going to challenge the system here and get like an outcome, but it's not going to work. He tries to tell them that it's all futile, and wipes them all. And which the last page shows that Reggie's now part of the household. Like, he's now been incorporated into the experiment.
And they clearly just think he's been there the whole time.
Yeah. And I wasn't expecting him to wipe everyone because we're halfway through the story now, and I thought, maybe that'd be turning things back too much. But then again, I have no idea what they're doing for the rest of this. So
I think that's still interesting because we know a lot now, so we'll be picking up on things still. So it's fine for us as a reader. I don't think it'll be frustrating.
Right.
Maybe if it did this a lot, but it's this is the first time it's done this. It kind of gets to pull that, and I think we've got a break for a few months now to kind of sit on this.
Yeah, it's a decent. This is a decent issue to have a break after, but because
it's not too cliffhangery, right?
No, but
there's a little bit one.
But it interests a lot to the story to let us mull over and kind of. I do think it may be worth rereading the first 6 before the 7th one hits.
Probably.
It's pretty dense.
Things together.
Yeah. But good stuff.
Yeah. This one definitely felt like Lost to me in that way where, oh, you think you have everything figured out? We're gonna reset things, and now it's a new, Yeah,
it's worth mentioning that a lot of what we hear in this is kind of Reggie's speculation, so I suspect that it's partially true, but there's probably some of it he's getting wrong.
Because we do know that Reg knows a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Like here, because he went years without being mind wiped in the same way, like knowing a lot of this stuff. Like I say, he helped design some of it. He's kind of been in on it. So I suspect most of it's true, I would think. But maybe there's some details, some things, some motivations that's where he's wrong.
Yeah. So I'm very curious. I think it's making the mystery more intriguing. And one of the things that's maybe sometimes hard with stories like this is that the more you reveal stuff, it might start to feel like it's losing its luster, or maybe it's getting like to try and keep up the mystery. It becomes more convoluted, and I think this is kind of keeping the same like core few ideas that are making up the mystery, and jumbling them up a little bit in the sense that okay, well we kind of understand this part now, but there's that maybe a different reason for it than before, or maybe the idea that this could just be a trial run for the real thing, so it's not actually like. These are some interesting things to throw into the mix here. There's some interesting wrenches been thrown in. So art's really nice. The flashback where he tells them what's going on, and it's also like his face but split up into the different panels.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that the flashback art too is subtly different than the current day stuff too. Like there's slightly different coloring and inking and stuff in it, so it makes it feel distinct. And I was like, is this still bueno? Like,
I think it is, yeah.
No, it is. But as I was reading it, it made me second guess. That's how much it was changed. But it was still close enough. But
just that shift, it just makes it feel different.
Yeah, and I like that. So
yeah, and this is definitely the most flashback heavy issue because like it just goes back to those extended flashbacks for like probably a good 2/3 of it. But it's good stuff, and you're kind of excited to see how these other characters are going to. I mean, I think the fact that one of the characters has tried to kill themselves, right, and they've kind of figured out that they can't, is a clear sign that this group is breaking down, that this isn't working.
Yeah, definitely not stable.
Yeah, yes, which was the word that was used, a stable group. But he did mention that they'll have to be exceptional in their field, so it kind of like ties back into why we have these 12 roles that are distinct.
To justify it, yeah.
But if Reg is in that house now, that means we have 2 artists too.
Yeah.
So how's that gonna offset things?
And what does that say? That maybe there should be like...
Are there 2 artists in there?
But the other one disappeared.
Did we see the other one still there at the end? I don't remember.
No, but you would remember that the reason that she was invited is because Reg couldn't make it. And so the fact that Reg couldn't make it, to me, means Walter had already secluded him away.
Right, but now that he's included...
Yeah, but now that he's there, maybe she's gone.
Maybe
if that's
the case,
maybe she's in the room.
First, right, maybe, and that's she was the first character we were introduced to, and we know she was by the statue at the beginning. When it looks like everything's gone to shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe she's in the weird second building now.
Maybe
she'll eventually break out. Yeah, so but maybe not. Maybe we'll find out. Presumably when it comes back. I do think I'm going to try and read the first 6 issues again right before issue 7 hits, though, because I feel like there's so many details and characters moving around that I think I want to.
I'd like to, whether or not I'll have the time in that point. Well,
he says after he read like 4 weeks of books this week.
I had a week off this week.
Okay, fair point, but all right, no, really good issue. Good place to leave it. If we have to have a break, it was a good one to leave it on. So, Matt, what are you giving Nice House in the Lake issue 6?
8.5.
Connor.
I'm going to give it an
8. 8.5. I'll agree with Matt on this. Why is it so important to you that we have different numbers?
Because we're different people, Pete. And if we keep having the same opinions, I don't like it.
All right. Well, just to wrap up, there's one more book. Every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, you can make myself or Connor read a book at one of the higher tiers. Connor's going to discuss Harley Quinn issue 8.
Yeah, this is still a Fear State tie-in.
Topical then.
Yeah, shockingly dense. Also, I know that the next issue's not out till next week. So this ends on a to be continued. So that's a bit of a weird, like, scheduling thing with Fear State.
It
I
could
guess.
be an aftermath that's just Harley and Ivy afterwards.
It could be, given where this ends. I'm not entirely convinced. There are basically like 2 major plot threads in this. You've got all of the Harley stuff. It's Harley with, the Ivy and Catwoman and Gardner, and setting up where we were, before they all showed up in, the main Fear State books, where they actually got there, and they're having a big fight with Keepsake, and there's a lot of just banter back and forth. That Keepsake then pulls out his group of knockoffs that we've seen him building over the last few issues, and big fight ensues. And that's part where it says to be continued. Is during that fight is they're all fighting the knockoffs, and that stuff's fine. It's not great. The art's Cosmo, so his action scenes are not particularly compelling. And it feels a bit awkward because there's a lot of recapping, there's a lot of exposition, there's a lot of Harley going to everyone else going, oh, this is Keepsake, this is what his gimmick is, this is kind of what's up. It's everything from the last 4 issues. I'm like, yeah, I read those 4 issues. I don't need to read 3 pages of recap about them now.
Gimmick's a weird word to hear from Connor, considering he doesn't like wrestling. So it's just
gimmicks
weird.
are not exclusive to wrestling.
Yes, they are.
Sure, Matt. Yeah.
Counterpoint, you were wrong.
I don't know how to argue with that. So, sure. The other half of the issue focuses on Kevin, who has decided he wants to be more like Harley and wants to be a vigilante himself. So he gets some sort of makeshift outfit, a balaclava, and his weapon of choice is a hockey stick. So
yeah, now we're talking.
Yeah, he goes out to try and save someone.
Matt's perked up. There's a hockey stick mention.
Yeah, he tries to save some woman from the peacekeepers, and then she completely handles herself anyway, and Kevin just stands there and watches and doesn't do a great job of anything really. He's like, yeah, you got this. They do go, kind of like almost a team up between this random woman and Kevin, and like, oh, let's go see. And it ends with him running in towards a burning building to try and help, to try and be a better person than he was. And that's most of that stuff. It's fine. Kevin's a weird character. He's very much been the viewpoint character of this run. I still don't really care for him, but it's trying to do something with him, I guess. I admire that.
I mean, it's ballsy crossing over with the Home Alone universe and having Kevin McAllister in the first place.
Yes, this guy definitely looks like Kevin McAllister.
Is he sociopathic?
I would just like to say, I'm pretty sure this is in the if you go to the preview pages on ComiXology,
the
second page we'll have a look at what Kevin looks like in his outfit with the hockey stick, and you can see for yourself what this guy is looking like. The only other little bit in this is a little bit of Hugo Strange. He's dealing with his headquarters. Everything's going wrong. Fear State's kind of going a bit tits up. Crane. He's like, Crane's destroying Gotham. Yeah, we can't leave any evidence. And he's still dressed up as Batman at this point. And he's like, I'm going to destroy my own place and burn everything and kill all my staff because I'm not leaving any evidence whatsoever. That's the end of that. Again, yeah, that's in the to be continued stuff as well. Which is why this feels so weird. Like that, this will finish after Fear State. I mean, I suppose it comes out, I'm assuming, with the Omega issue, but it feels like it definitively takes place within the Fear State tie-ins. Like it feels like that final issue should have come out this week, maybe, and been read before Batman as well, like Nightwing. So it's a bit strange that editorials kind of kind of shifted that around a bit. But
freaking Kevin.
Yeah, it's not the worst issue. This is probably the densest issue of this book, though, where it's got 2 equal plot lines plus the Hugo Strange stuff. It's neither of them are that compelling. Even from a writing perspective, I don't think either of them are great. This is probably the weakest Fear State tie-in, even just on the levels of what it's actually doing as a Fear State tie-in. I think it's the weakest. I think it's the most skippable because, like when we read Batman, if you weren't reading Nightwing, you'd be like, "Where does this look?" It felt weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you never felt you were missing anything, because this has Harley and Ivy and Gardner and all that stuff is leading into what we did in Batman. I didn't feel missing at all in that book. So I think it's easily the most skippable of state tie-ins, and probably should skip it because it's not very good. It's still not good, and Rosmo's art is still ugly. I hate it.
It needs the sticky bandits to go along with Kevin.
Are you sure it doesn't need the wet bandits?
Sticky bandits, wet bandits. They're all equally double entendre-esque, Matt. It's fine.
That's our thing.
It's never occurred to me that one of them sounds like the male version, one sounds like the female version. The sticky bandit and the wet bandit.
I just got that.
Hey, you gonna watch the new Home Alone?
For the lols, probably, but I'm not expecting good things.
I'm not either. We're waiting till after Thanksgiving.
Is anyone expecting good things?
I was expecting good things with the Mighty Ducks, and it ended up surprising. I thought it would be fine, and I didn't expect it to be as good as it ended up being.
Did Connor rate Harley?
Yeah, it was a 4 out of 10.
Oh, there you go.
Oh boy.
Well, that'll take us out of the part of the show. We pick our favourite stuff of the week, favourite panel / moment, favourite cover, favourite art, and top 5 books. Panel / moment, Matt, what you got?
Do we have any surprises that I'm going to pick the Ivy page from Secret Origins? It is a thing of beauty. It's, so that's mine.
Fair enough, Connor.
I'm going to go from Supergirl. It's when Ruth holds up the sword to Supergirl and is like, no. I'm sorry, but you're not going down
there. Okay, that's good. I'm going to be a little generic here and just go with the bat signal and Batman. With Babs looking up at it. Obviously there's a lot of looking up at a bat signal panel in many a Batman comic, but when you can nail it when it's got an impact because it's an important moment where it turns on. I always remember it was the 0 issue, I think, for one of the Bat books in New 52, where it was the first time the signal ever turned on, and it was all the Robins and stuff seeing it for the first time at whatever age they were, and I remember that feeling like a good moment. So
that was the 0 issue. I think it was of Batman.
Yeah. So that's my moment. Favorite cover of the week? I'll jump in here. Honestly, it's probably the regular cover for Nice House in the Lake. It's just a really great horror, creepy image. I will give a shout out though to Refrigerator Full of Heads for having a nice stylized horror cover as well. For superhero stuff, probably the Nightwing variant that's got all the Batgirls with Nightwing on it.
Yeah, that is pretty nice.
I like that one. But Nice House in the Lake, the main cover for that's my pick. Connor?
Yeah, I really like that Nightwing variant, but I'm actually going to go with the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow variant, the Amy Reeder one. I know Peter Hay is absolutely not his type of
It's very cartoony.
It is, but I really like it.
Okay, Matt?
I'm going to go with Refrigerator Full of Heads for the reasons Pete said. It's this very pulpy horror. And also, I didn't get to look at the other Secret Origins one, and there's not enough Ivy on it, so yeah. So,
yeah.
Also, Green Lantern. Shout out to Green Lantern since I'm the only one that read it. That cover's kind of cool with the Screaming John. And it's all split up. It's asking who is John Stewart.
I'll be honest, I forgot anyone read that, so I forgot it was eligible.
Yeah. Okay. That's okay.
I'll take us out to best art then. Connor, you can start us off.
It's between Supergirl and Nice House for sure. Those are the two standouts by a pretty healthy margin. Although, Jimenez in Batman does a good job. I think I'm going to give it to Supergirl. Just about. I think Evilly does just about, but it's close.
Sure. Matt?
Yeah, Supergirl, Woman from for Evilly. But Jimenez for Batman. A lot of shouts for that one.
Yeah, I think it's the same sort of 3 that I'd consider as well. Although I think I'm going to give it to Martinez for Nice House on the Lake in the end. But yeah, Jimenez for Batman and Evelyn for Supergirl are both worth mentioning. So cool. All right, top 5 books then, Matt. Go.
All right, so 1 is, if I can remember my ratings, 1 is Supergirl, 1 of Tomorrow. 2 is Nice House on the Lake. 3 is Batman. 4 is the Secret Origins Gardener. And 5 is Superman, Son of Kal-El.
Connor?
Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow at 1. Batman at 2. Nice House on the Lake 3. Superman, Son of Kal-El 4. And Nightwing at 5.
Okay, my number 1. Sounds like I have like 3 books that are kind of the same rating. Like, I don't have an obvious one for the numbers, but I think I'll say I'll go with Batman at number 1, and I'll say Nice House on the Lake at number 2, Supergirl at number 3, and then Superman, Son of Kal-El number 4, and then number 5, Nightwing. Okay, there you go. Which will take me on to telling you what's coming next week from Detective Comics Comics, not District of Columbia Comics, just to get rid of that controversy from earlier. So coming next week we have Detective Comics,
which is also a Fair State tie-in.
Of course, that's the first one I have to mention. Yeah, but at least that one's like this separate, because Nakano's in it, so it feels kind of related, but
that's true. Yeah,
it's separate enough that I don't think it's a big deal. But yeah, so we got Detective Comics 1045, we had The Flash 776, we have Robin issue 8, Catwoman 37, we have Harley Quinn issue 9, Batman Reptilian issue 6, DC vs. Vampires issue 2, Task Force Z issue 2, Deathstroke Inc. issue 3, Checkmate issue 6, which Matt may force himself to read again, Superman 78 issue 4, Wonder Woman Black and Gold issue 6, and Aquaman Green Arrow Deep Target issue 2. So a healthy enough week.
I think Checkmate 6 is the last one too. So
yes, that sounds right. Yeah.
So I have to at this point.
Sure. Yeah, you may as well finish it. You've read 5
of 6. 5.
Yeah. So yeah, interesting enough week next week. I am very excited for DC versus Vampires again, and obviously Detective's always been good. So fun stuff.
And Robin.
Robin. Yeah,
might be my favorite DC book right now. It's only the most excited to read every time it's released.
Is it the final Rambi issue, or is there one more after that?
I don't remember. Why didn't you ask him? He's your best friend. He recognized you.
I'll just tweet him.
You're right. And again, Catwoman's a Fear States tie-in still. So yeah, there's a few of these still hitting after it's kind of wrapped up.
It feels like a weird editorial oversight, to me at least, in the scheduling.
I mean, we'll see how Selena deals with the even if the what was it called? Help me out here. What's the organization that's shutting things? Yeah, thank you. The Magistrate. Even if they're shutting down, I can see Selena going through and busting some heads.
If I was to guess, I would say that Ivy, like, fixing the city is going to happen during the Catwoman book, like away from her, and she'll see it happening from a distance or something. Like it'll sort of like it'll be the same timeline as the final Batman issue, I imagine, rather than set after. But we'll see. So no, interesting list of books for next week. So let us know what you thought of this week's books. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. Where's my post-it note? Here it is. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Board Now, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, David Brown, and Stanley. You can support us, of course, on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and help keep all the content coming. You can get early access to the show by a day. You'll get it whenever it's ready, sometime on a Saturday. Late. I mean, if you're in the UK, it's very late, but whenever it's out the oven, you'll get it right away on Patreon. So if you're interested, go and have a look and help support the show. But you can also support us for free. Like, the like button, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications on YouTube, give us a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts from. All of that does help out, so please consider doing so. But otherwise, that's pretty much us. Twitter, I guess, DC Comics Podcast. Simple, easy to remember. So check us out on Twitter too. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speech Force.
And keep your opinions in your stupid pocket.